Let her wait outside. We're having dinner." The voice of my daughter-in-law, Caroline, cut through the window like a knife. My own daughter-in-law had just condemned me to stand in the rain while they enjoyed their meal. I had been standing there for 3 hours. 3 hours getting soaked while my family ate warmly inside the house I had helped them buy. But that night, I made a decision that brought them to their knees the very next day. My name is Helen. I am 69 years old, and it all began on a Friday morning when I woke up filled with excitement. After 3 months without seeing my grandson, Leo, my son Ben had finally invited me to dinner. "Mom, come over today at 6. We really want to see you," he had said in that sweet voice that always melted my heart. I have been a widow for 5 years. I had worked my entire life cleaning houses, selling baked goods, doing whatever it took to raise my son, and now that he had his own family, I was still the one supporting them. Their bank accounts, the mortgage on the house, Leo's private school, the car payments, it all came from my pension and my life savings. But I didn't care. They were my blood, my reason for living. I got ready with such care that afternoon. I chose my maroon dress, the one that made me feel elegant despite my wrinkles. I put on my late mother's pearls and that French perfume I had bought on sale. I wanted to be perfect for my family. I walked to the toy store downtown and bought that new Transformer robot Leo had asked for the last time we saw each other. I also stopped by the French bakery for those little macarons that Caroline loved so much. The bags were heavy in my arms, but my heart was light with happiness. I took the number 43 bus, the same one as always. A 45-minute journey watching the city go by, imagining Leo's surprise when he saw his gift. It was a beautiful October afternoon. The sky was clear, and there was a soft breeze that reminded me of when Ben was little and we would go to the park to feed the pigeons. I arrived in their suburban neighborhood, the one that made me so proud because I knew my effort had made it possible for them to live there. I walked the 4 blocks from the bus stop to their house, that 2-story house with a garden, the house that had my name on the deed as a co-signer. I rang the doorbell at exactly 6 o'clock, just as we had agreed, and that's when my nightmare began. Caroline opened the door with a forced smile. She was wearing an elegant black dress that I had given her last month. "Hello, Helen," she said without inviting me in. "Look, you've come at a bad time. We have guests." "But Ben invited me to dinner," I replied, confused, feeling the bags grow heavier in my arms. Yes, but you know what? Just wait here a moment while I talk to him, okay?" And she closed the door in my face. I was left standing on the porch, not understanding what had just happened. I could hear voices inside, laughter, the clinking of glasses. It smelled of pot roast, of wine, of celebration, but I was outside. I waited 5 minutes, 10, 15. I rang the doorbell again. This time, Ben opened it, my son, my pride, the man for whom I had sacrificed everything. "Mom, what are you still doing here?" he asked with an uncomfortable smile. "You told me to come for dinner, son. Here I am." He glanced back over his shoulder as if consulting with someone. "Look, Mom, some of Caroline's friends showed up unexpectedly, and we don't have enough food. How about you come over tomorrow instead?" It felt like I had been slapped across the face. I had spent my last few dollars on those gifts. I had taken 2 buses. I had gotten ready with so much love. But son, you invited me. I brought gifts for Leo and... "I know, Mom, but please understand, it's complicated." Caroline appeared behind him with a glass of wine in her hand. "Helen, it really was a misunderstanding. It's better if we coordinate for another day. Yes, when we have more time to give you the attention you deserve. As if I were a burden, as if I needed to be attended to out of pity." Just then, I heard Leo's voice from inside. "Who is it, Daddy?" "No one important, son. Keep eating," Ben replied. "No one important." His own grandmother, no one important. "All right," I managed to whisper. "I'll go." But instead of leaving, I just stood there. I didn't know what to do, where to go. The buses didn't run as frequently at this hour. And then, it started to rain. At first, it was a soft drizzle, little drops landing on my freshly styled hair. But within minutes, it turned into a torrential downpour, soaking my maroon dress, the one I had chosen with such care. I took shelter under the small overhang of the entrance, pressed against the door of my own family's home. I could hear their conversations perfectly from inside. Laughter, toasts, background music. "Who was that, honey?" I heard an unfamiliar female voice ask. "Ben's mother," Caroline replied with a tone of annoyance. "She just showed up unannounced." "But I invited her," my son protested weakly. "Oh, Ben, you know she makes me nervous when she comes over. She always finds something to complain about the house, how we raise Leo, everything." My heart broke a little more. What did I complain about? I had never said a word out of place. I always praised them, defended them, admired them. "Besides," Caroline continued, "you know how she gets when she drinks wine. She becomes so intense, so emotional." Intense? Emotional? They barely offered me a glass of water when I visited. The rain intensified, and I stood there like a wet statue, listening to them talk about me behind my back. "What if she gets sick out there?" Ben asked with a hint of concern. "Don't be dramatic. She's probably gone by now. Your mother is tougher than she looks." But I hadn't left. I couldn't leave. It was as if my legs had taken root in that marble porch I had helped pay for. An hour passed. Water seeped through my shoes. I could feel my clothes sticking to my wrinkled skin. I shivered from the cold, but something inside me refused to move. I rang the doorbell again. This time, they took a long time to answer. When they finally did, it was Ben, with an expression of annoyance. "Mom, are you still here? You're going to get sick. Son, please, just let me in to dry off. I promise I won't bother anyone. Look, Mom, the guests are uncomfortable. It's nothing personal, but I am your mother, Ben, the woman who gave you life, who worked day and night so you could go to college, who is still paying the bills for this house." His face hardened. "Here you go again. This is why Caroline doesn't want you coming over so often. You turn everything into a drama." "A drama? Asking for a little respect was a drama?" "Son, I just want to be with my family. Is that too much to ask?" "Ben, close the door. You're letting all the cold air in," Caroline shouted from inside. And my son, my own son, obeyed. He closed the door without another word. I stood there, in the rain, feeling tears mix with the water falling from the sky. The bags with the gifts were soaked, the wrapping paper dissolving in my hands. I walked over to the dining room window. Through the lace curtains I had given them last year, I could see the perfect scene. The table set with fine china, crystal glasses gleaming under the chandelier, elegant people chatting animatedly. There was my grandson Leo, sitting in his high chair, eating peacefully. My grandson, for whom I bought clothes, toys, for whom I paid for the most expensive school in the city. "Grandma loves you, Leo," I whispered, pressing my face against the fogged-up window. At that moment, Leo turned toward the window. Our eyes met for a second. He saw me there, soaked, shivering with cold. But instead of running to the door to hug me, he simply went back to eating as if nothing had happened. It was then that I heard the conversation that shattered me completely. "See? She's still there," Caroline said to her friend, pointing toward the window where I stood. "You're not going to let her in?" "Poor thing, she's drenched." "Not a chance. Let her wait out there if she wants. We're having a peaceful dinner, and I'm not going to let her ruin our evening." But she's the boy's grandmother. She's a very complicated woman, always wants to be the center of attention. If I let her in, she'll start with her dramas, her reproaches, her sob stories. "No, thank you." Ben intervened weakly. "Caroline, maybe we could—" "Could what? Let her in to sour our night? Your mother needs to learn she can't just show up whenever she feels like it." "But I invited her." "You invited her because you felt sorry for her, as always. But look at the situation she's put us in. Our guests asking what's going on." The child confused. Leo, my beloved grandson, looked up from his plate. "Why can't Grandma come in?" "Because the adults are talking about important things, sweetie. Your grandma is leaving soon." But I wasn't leaving. I couldn't. It was as if the pain had nailed me to the ground. 2 more hours passed. 2 full hours under that relentless rain that seemed to mock my misery. I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. The cold had seeped so deep into my bones that I wasn't even shivering. It was as if my body had accepted defeat, but my soul was still burning with humiliation. 3 full hours. 180 minutes of my life lost in that rain while my family dined as if I didn't exist. Water streamed down my face, washing away the makeup I had so carefully applied. My maroon dress, the one that made me feel elegant, was now plastered to my body like a cold, wet second skin. The gift bags were a disaster. The wrapping paper had completely disintegrated, revealing the soaked box of Leo's robot. The macarons had turned into a soggy mess inside their elegant packaging. But what hurt the most wasn't the cold, or the rain, or the ruined clothes. It was the realization that to my own family, I was nothing more than a nuisance. Just then, I heard footsteps approaching from the hallway inside. My heart leaped with hope. Maybe Ben is coming to get me, I thought. Maybe he's realized what's happening, but it wasn't Ben. It was Caroline, walking toward the window with a glass of red wine in her hand. She approached the curtains and pulled them back slightly to look outside. She saw me there soaked, shivering, with the ruined bags at my feet, and she smiled. It wasn't a smile of pity or concern. It was a smile of satisfaction, as if she were enjoying my suffering. She stood there for a few seconds, watching me like one might watch a show. Then she calmly returned to the dining table. "Is she still there?" her friend asked. "Yep, like an abandoned dog," Caroline replied with a cruel little laugh. "But she'll get tired and leave eventually. Don't you feel sorry for her?" "Sorry?" "Not at all. She's a manipulative woman. This is all just theater to make us feel guilty." Theater? Manipulation? When the only thing I had ever done in my life was love my family, work for them, sacrifice everything for their well-being? Besides, Caroline continued, raising her voice so I could hear her clearly, it was about time someone set some boundaries with her. She's always believed that just because she pays for a few things, she can show up whenever she wants. A few things. As if the $5,000 I transferred to their account every month were just a few things. As if the mortgage on the house, Leo's school, the health insurance, the credit cards were just a few things. "If I were you, I'd let her in," the friend insisted. "She looks awful out there." "Well, it's a good thing you're not in my place. This is my house, and I decide who comes in." Her house. The house that had my name as a co-signer on all the documents. The house whose payments came out of my account every month. Ben appeared in the dining room. I could see his silhouette through the curtains. "Caroline, it's 9 o'clock. My mom has been out there for 3 hours. She's going to get sick. Then she should leave. No one is forcing her to stay. But she has no way to get home. The buses have stopped running. Then she can call a cab or walk. It's not my problem." Walking was more than 10 miles to my house, and a taxi would cost all the money I had in my purse. "Caroline, please. She's my mother. And for that very reason, she should respect us. But no, she always has to become the victim, the martyr we all have to worship." At that moment, Leo got up from the table and ran to the window. "Grandma! Grandma Helen!" he shouted, pressing his little hands against the glass. My heart thrilled with joy. My grandson had seen me. He was calling for me. But Caroline grabbed him by the arm and pulled him back. "Leo, no. Your grandmother is playing a game to make herself the victim. Don't pay any attention to her. But it's raining, and she's all wet. Sometimes adults do strange things to get attention. Your grandmother will leave when she gets tired of her tantrum." A tantrum. Standing in the rain waiting for my family to show me a minimum of respect was a tantrum. "Ben, control your son," Caroline told my son in an authoritarian tone. And Ben, as always, obeyed. "Come here, Leo. Leave your grandma alone." "But Daddy." "No buts. Your mother is right. Grandma will leave when she wants to." My grandson looked at me one last time through the glass. In his eyes, I saw confusion, sadness, but also something that broke my soul. Fear. Fear of disobeying his parents, fear of defending his grandmother. And in that moment, I knew I had lost them forever. The rain kept falling on my head, but I no longer felt it. The emotional pain had surpassed any physical discomfort. I pulled my cell phone out of my soaked purse. I had several messages from my neighbor, Sharon, asking how the dinner had been. "Everything okay, Helen? How is my handsome grandson?" I couldn't answer her. I had no words to explain what I was going through. Instead, I dialed another number. A number I knew by heart, but never thought I would use in a situation like this. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. National Bank Customer Service. This is Patricia speaking. How can I help you? Good evening, I said, my voice cracking from the cold and emotion. I need to freeze some accounts. Of course, ma'am. Can you please provide your account number and social security number? My voice trembled. I didn't know if it was from the cold or from the decision I was about to make. With numb fingers, I entered the numbers the operator requested. Perfect, Mrs. Helen Miller. I see that you are the primary holder on several accounts and a co-signer on several others. Which ones specifically do you need to freeze? I took a deep breath. Through the window, I could see Caroline serving dessert to her guests. Leo was laughing at something one of the adults had said. Ben was making a toast with a glass of wine that probably cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. All of them? I replied with a firmness I didn't know I possessed. I want to freeze all the accounts where I appear as the primary holder or co-signer. I understand. May I ask the reason? It's for the official report. Suspicion of unauthorized use. I lied without blinking. Very well. I see here we have the payroll account ending in 4587, the savings account ending in 2841, and the joint accounts ending in 7890 and 5432. You also appear as a co-signer on a mortgage and 2 credit cards. Do you wish to freeze everything? Every number she mentioned was a piece of my life. The payroll account where my pension was deposited, the savings I had built dollar by dollar over 40 years of work, the joint accounts where Ben had access for household expenses and Leo's education. Everything, I repeated. Ma'am, I must inform you that this means no one will be able to make withdrawals, transfers, or use the associated cards until you authorize the unfreezing. Are you sure? Through the window, I saw Caroline rise elegantly from the table, with the grace that only comes from years of not worrying about money. She headed toward the kitchen, probably to pour more wine, completely sure. Perfect. The process will take approximately 2 hours to take effect. Do you need anything else? Yes. I want you to email me confirmation of all the blocked operations. Of course. Your request has been logged with case number 789456. Anything else I can help you with? No, thank you. I hung up the phone with a strange sense of peace. For the first time in 3 hours, I smiled. I walked away from the window and went to the front door one last time. I rang the bell insistently, as if it were an emergency. This time, Caroline opened it, clearly annoyed. Helen, what part of you can't come in did you not understand? I just came to say goodbye, I said with a calm that unsettled her. Goodbye? Yes, I've gotten the message. I'm not welcome in this house. I could see her expression change slightly. Maybe she expected tears, pleading, drama. Well, I'm glad you finally understood. I just want you to know one thing, I continued with a serene smile. Starting tomorrow, you're going to have to learn to live on your own resources. What do you mean by that? Nothing important. Just that I think it's time for you and Ben to become fully responsible for your expenses. Caroline scoffed. Please, Helen, don't threaten me. We know you can't live without us, without Leo, without Ben. Your entire life revolves around this family. You're right. My life has revolved around you. But tonight, that changed. Oh, really? And what are you going to do? Go live alone with your cats? I'm going to be happy, I replied simply. How dramatic. Please. Ben appeared behind her. Mom, are you leaving? Do you need money for a taxi? The same son who had closed the door in my face was now worried about how I would get home. I don't need anything from you, son. Not anymore. Don't be like that, Mom. You know how Caroline is when she has guests. We'll talk tomorrow. There's nothing to talk about, Ben. Why are you being so strange? It's as if something happened to you. I burst out laughing. A bitter but liberating laugh. Yes, something did happen. I realized I've been wasting my life. Mom, don't exaggerate. I'm not exaggerating. I'm being realistic for the first time in years. Caroline grew impatient. All right, enough. If you're done with your soap opera, we have guests waiting. Of course. Go back to your dinner. Enjoy your perfect life. I turned and started walking toward the street. Mom, Ben shouted. How are you going to get home? That's not your problem anymore, I replied without turning back. I walked in the rain, soaked, with the ruined gift bags dangling from my arms. But for the first time all night, I felt light. I reached the main avenue and hailed a cab. The driver, an older man, looked at me with concern. "Ma'am, are you okay? You're soaked." "I'm perfect," I answered, and it was true. The entire ride home, I couldn't stop smiling. In my purse, my phone vibrated with the confirmation from the bank. "Dear customer, we confirm that all your accounts have been successfully frozen. No transactions can be made until further authorization." Tomorrow was going to be a very interesting day. I arrived home around 11 o'clock at night, completely drenched, but with a strange sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years. I took off the ruined maroon dress, had a hot shower, and put on my most comfortable pajamas. For the first time in a long time, I slept soundly, without nightmares, without worries about Ben's expenses, without anxiety about pleasing Caroline. It was as if I had left a 100-pound weight at the door of that house. I woke up the next day with the sun streaming through my window. It was 8 in the morning, and I felt renewed. I made my usual black coffee, toast with homemade jam, and sat on my small balcony to enjoy breakfast. My phone had been silent all night. I checked it and had no messages. That's strange, I thought. Ben usually texts to see if I got home okay. But then I remembered the night before and understood that things had changed forever. At 9:30, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw my neighbor, Sharon, standing at the door with a bag of pastries. "Good morning, Helen. How was dinner last night? You look very relaxed." I told her everything, every detail of my humiliation, every cruel word from Caroline, every moment in the rain. Sharon listened with her eyes growing wider and wider. "I can't believe they did that to you," she said, indignant, "after everything you've done for them." "I don't care anymore, Sharon. For the first time in my life, I made a decision just for me. You froze all the accounts? All of them. And I don't plan on unfreezing them until they beg for my forgiveness on their knees." Sharon laughed. "I love this new Helen. It's about time." We were chatting when my phone started ringing like crazy. It was Ben. "Answer it," Sharon said with a mischievous grin. "This is going to be good." "Hello? Mom? What did you do?" "Good morning, son. How did you sleep?" "Mom, don't play dumb. The cards aren't working." Caroline went to the supermarket and all her purchases were declined. We went to the bank and they told us the accounts are frozen. "Oh, really? Why did you do that?" "Because it's my money, Ben, and I've decided I no longer want to share it with people who disrespect me." "Mom, don't exaggerate. Caroline was nervous about the guests. You know how she islanded?" "I know exactly how she islanded. That's why I made this decision." "But you can't do this. We have bills, commitments. Leo's school tuition is due today." "That's not my problem anymore." "What do you mean it's not your problem? He's your grandson." "My grandson who saw me in the rain yesterday and didn't lift a finger to help me." I could hear Caroline shouting something in the background. "Caroline says that if you don't unfreeze the accounts, she's going to have to get a job." "What wonderful news. It's about time." "Mom, please, come to the house and we can talk." "I am not setting foot in that house until Caroline apologizes for treating me like a stray dog." "You're exaggerating." 3 hours in the rain is exaggerating?" Ben fell silent. "Mom, look," Caroline says. She says that maybe she misspoke yesterday. "Maybe she misspoke?" I repeated for Sharon to hear. My friend covered her mouth to keep from laughing. "Yeah, you know how she is when she's stressed." "Son, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to listen carefully. For 5 years I have paid your mortgage, your credit cards, Leo's school, the groceries, the gas, the health insurance, the vacations, everything. And the only payment I have received in return has been humiliation." "That's not true." "No? When was the last time Caroline thanked me for anything? When was the last time you invited me to dinner without me having to beg? When was the last time my opinions were treated with respect?" Ben didn't answer. "Exactly. Never. But Mom, we're family. Family respects each other, son. And you both lost that right yesterday." I hung up the phone and put it on silent. Sharon applauded. "Bravo. You gave me chills. I'm so proud of you. Thanks. But this is just the beginning. 30 minutes later, my doorbell rang. I looked out the window and saw Ben's car parked outside. Both he and Caroline got out and headed toward my door. They're here, I told Sharon. Do you want me to leave? Not at all. Stay. I need a witness. I opened the door before they could knock. Caroline's eyes were red and swollen as if she'd been crying. Ben looked desperate. Mom, please, we need to talk. We can talk right here at the door. Sharon is staying as a witness. A witness to what? Caroline asked in a broken voice. To whatever you're about to say. Caroline took a step closer. Helen, I am very sorry about yesterday. I was stressed with the guests, and I didn't think about the consequences of my words. Which words specifically? Well, when I said for you to wait outside. That's all? Caroline looked at Ben, seeking help. I'm also sorry for making you wait so long. How long exactly? I don't know. An hour? 3 hours, Caroline. 3 hours in the rain. Yes, 3 hours. I'm very sorry. And what else are you sorry for? What else? Caroline, you said a lot of things yesterday. That I was manipulative. That it was all theater. That I should wait outside like an abandoned dog. Caroline's face crumbled. I didn't say that. Yes, you did. And you also said I was a complicated woman, that I always wanted to be the center of attention, that you had to set boundaries with me. Ben looked at her, shocked. You said all that? Ben, it doesn't matter what I said. The important thing is I was upset, and I wasn't thinking. Yes, it does matter, I interrupted, because those words showed what you really think of me. Helen, please, just unfreeze the accounts, and let's forget all this. Number. What do you mean, no? I'm not unfreezing anything until you give me a real apology. On your knees. On my knees? Caroline was outraged. That's humiliating. Just as it was humiliating for me to stand for 3 hours in the rain, waiting for my family to grant me a shred of dignity. Ben intervened. Mom, be reasonable. Caroline already apologized. That was not a sincere apology. That was an apology of convenience. What do you want me to do? Caroline asked desperately. I want you to kneel, right here, in front of Sharon as a witness, and apologize for every single cruel thing you said to me yesterday. That's too much. Then there's no deal. I turned to go back inside my apartment. Wait, Caroline shouted. She looked at me with a mix of desperation and wounded pride. I could see the internal struggle between her need for the money and her resistance to humbling herself before me. Fine, she finally whispered. Ben looked at her, surprised. Caroline, you don't have to. Yes, I do, she interrupted, tears in her eyes. We have no choice. Slowly, very slowly, Caroline knelt on the floor of my entryway. Her knees touched the cold tiles that I myself had laid years ago when I bought this little apartment with my savings. Helen, she began, her voice cracking. I apologize for leaving you waiting in the rain. Continue, I said firmly. I apologize for calling you manipulative. And what else? Caroline took a deep breath, tears streaming down her cheeks. I apologize for saying it was all theater, for comparing you to an abandoned dog, for saying you were a complicated woman. And for what else? For saying I had to set boundaries with you, for not recognizing everything you've done for us, for disrespecting you in my own house. Sharon watched the scene with wide eyes. Ben looked uncomfortable, shuffling his feet nervously. And do you promise this will never happen again? I promise, Caroline whispered. I didn't hear you. I promise, she cried out in desperation. Get up, I said finally. Caroline rose slowly, wiping tears with the back of her hand. Her elegant dress now had dust on the knees. Very well. Now for part 2. Part 2? Ben asked, alarmed. Yes, the apology is just the first step. Now come the new rules. What rules? Caroline looked terrified. Sit down here in the garden chairs. This is going to take a while. Ben and Caroline sat like scolded schoolchildren. Sharon settled into her chair with a satisfied smile. Rule number 1, I began. I am no longer your personal bank. From now on, you will be responsible for all of your own expenses. But Mom, let me finish, Ben. Rule number 2. I will transfer money only for Leo's basic expenses, his school, his food, his clothes, but piano lessons, swimming, tutoring, and all those other extras are over until you can pay for them yourselves. Caroline turned pale. Rule number 3. No more expensive restaurants, trips, designer clothes, or whims paid for with my money. Helen, that's impossible. We can't live like that. Of course you can. Millions of families live with fewer resources and are perfectly happy, but we're already used to. Exactly. You are used to living above your means using my money. That is over. Ben interjected nervously. Mom, what if Caroline gets a job? Could you consider? Rule number 4, I continued, relentless. Caroline has 30 days to find a job. If she doesn't, I will cut off all financial support, permanently. 30 days? Caroline exclaimed. That's such a short time. It's more time than you gave me yesterday to find shelter from the rain. Sharon nodded in approval. Rule number 5. My visits will be by specific invitation only. No more come whenever you want, and then making me wait at the door. Okay, Ben muttered. Rule number 6. When you do invite me, you will treat me with the respect I deserve. No more making me feel like an unwelcome guest in the house I helped pay for. Yes, Mom. Rule number 7. Caroline will take a class on etiquette and respect for one's elders. That's humiliating. As was listening to your comments yesterday, Caroline looked at Ben, pleading for help, but he was too scared to contradict me. Rule number 8. You will open a savings account where you will deposit 10% of any income you have. It's time you learn to be financially responsible. But if we don't have any income? Caroline protested. Then you had better find a job quickly. Rule number 9. No additional credit cards. The ones you have are sufficient. And rule number 10, I said with a smile, is the most important of all. What is it? They both asked in unison. A single act of disrespect, a single humiliation, a single derogatory comment toward me, and everything is over. Forever. No second chances. The silence was deafening. Caroline was crying silently. Ben looked defeated, and Sharon was smiling proudly. Do you agree to all the rules? I asked. Yes, Ben whispered. Caroline? Yes, she replied through her tears. Perfect. Sharon is a witness to this agreement. If you break it, she can confirm it. Helen, Caroline said in a pleading voice, when will you unfreeze the accounts? When I see real results. When Caroline gets a job. When you treat me with genuine respect. When you prove that you have learned your lesson. And in the meantime, you'll have to manage with whatever cash you have. Ben took out his wallet and checked it. I only have $20. And I have 5, Caroline added. Then you had better manage that money well, until things change. Caroline stood up from her chair, trembling. And if I don't find a job in 30 days? Then you will have to move to a cheaper place, take Leo out of private school, and live like normal people live. You can't do that to us. Of course I can. It's my money, and I decide how it's used. Ben approached me, his face pleading. Mom, please, be flexible. Caroline will change. You saw she apologized. She apologized because she had no other choice. A real apology, from true remorse, is very different. What do we have to do to make you truly forgive us? Caroline asked desperately. Prove to me over the next few months that you really value what I've done for you, that you respect me not for my money, but for being the matriarch of this family. We will, Ben promised. I hope so. Because this is your last chance. They left that afternoon, empty-handed and with their heads bowed. I watched them walk away through the window, talking amongst themselves with desperate gestures. Helen, Sharon said when they were gone, you are my hero. I wish all women our age had the courage you just showed. The following days were revealing. For the first time in years, my phone didn't ring constantly with requests for money, complaints about expenses, or Caroline asking for a little transfer for some whim. The silence was beautiful. Sharon came over for coffee every afternoon. Word had spread in the apartment building about what had happened, and my neighbors congratulated me for setting boundaries. Helen, we all knew that daughter-in-law of yours was bleeding you dry, said Mrs. Rosa from the 4th floor. But we never thought you'd have the guts to turn off the tap. On the 5th day, Caroline appeared at my door. Alone, she looked haggard, with deep dark circles under her eyes and her hair unkempt, a far cry from the elegant, haughty woman of a week ago. "Helen, can we talk?" "We can talk right here in the doorway. But it's private." "Caroline, after listening to everything you said about me to your guests, I don't think there's anything private left between us." She bit her lower lip nervously. "I've been looking for a job every day, and it's harder than I thought. I'm 35. I haven't worked in 8 years. I have no recent experience. Welcome to the real world." "Helen, please. Ben is desperate. Yesterday he had to borrow money from his coworkers to buy food. And what have you done to help?" "I've been filling out applications, going to interviews." "I don't mean that. I mean, what have you done to remedy the damage you caused me?" Caroline fell silent. "Exactly. Nothing. What do you want me to do?" "I want you to truly understand what you did. I want you to feel, even just a little bit, the humiliation you put me through." He already apologized. "You knelt because you had no choice. But you haven't shown a single gram of genuine remorse." Caroline started to cry. "What more do you want from me? I want you to go to every single person who was at your house that night and tell them the truth. Tell them you left me in the rain for 3 hours, that you treated me like an animal, that all of this happened because I am a woman who deserves respect." "That's humiliating." "Exactly. Now you know how I felt. I can't do that. They're my friends. I'd look like a what? A cruel woman who mistreats her mother-in-law? Because that is exactly what you are." Caroline wiped her tears with the sleeve of her cheap sweater. It was the first time I had seen her not wearing designer clothes. "If I do that, will you unfreeze the accounts?" "It's a first step, but it's not enough." "What else?" "I want you to seriously look for work, not online applications from your couch. I want you to go out every day, knock on doors, beg if you have to." "I'm already doing that." "Oh, really? Have you gone to clean houses? Have you asked in restaurants if they need waitresses? Have you considered working in a supermarket?" Caroline's face fell. "Those kinds of jobs are what? Humiliating? Just as it was humiliating for me to clean houses for 30 years so my son could go to college? As it is humiliating to work from sunup to sundown to support a family that doesn't value you?" "I didn't know." "Of course you knew. You just didn't care." Caroline stood there in my doorway, watching her world of privilege crumble. "Helen, I promise I will change." "Promises are carried away by the wind, Caroline. Actions are what count. Give me a chance." "I am giving you a chance. You have 25 days to get any job, and I want proof pay stubs, contracts, something tangible. And if I can't find one, then Ben will have to decide if he wants to stay married to a woman who is not willing to contribute to their home." Caroline's eyes widened in panic. "You would say that to him?" "I wouldn't have to. He would realize it himself. Please, Helen, I have a son. Leo is my grandson before he is your son. And he will be fine, because I will never abandon him. But you have to earn your place in this family." Caroline left that day, paler than when she had arrived. 2 days later, Ben came to visit me. He looked terrible, too, but there was something different about him. A humility I hadn't seen in years. "Mom, can I come in?" "Of course, son." He sat in my small living room, looking around as if seeing it for the first time. "Your apartment has always been so cozy," he said. "I don't know why I never noticed. Because you were too busy enjoying the house I helped you pay for. You're right, and you're right about everything that's happening." I looked at him, surprised. It was the first time Ben had ever sided with me in anything related to Caroline. "Do you really think so?" "Mom, these days without money have opened my eyes. Caroline has been hysterical, screaming at me that I'm useless for not being able to support my family. She has said horrible things to me." "Like what?" "That I'm a failure. That if it weren't for your money, we never would have had the life we have. That she only married me because I had a rich mother." I felt a stab of pain. "She said that to you?" "Yes, and worse. She told me all her friends laugh at us because we depend on an old woman." "An old woman?" Her words, not mine. I stood up from my chair, furious. "Ben, that woman doesn't love you. She's using you." "I know, Mom. I know that now. And what are you going to do about it?" I don't know. I'm afraid of being alone, of Leo growing up without a complete family. Son, it is better to grow up in a home with one person who loves him than in a home with two people who hate each other. Ben started to cry. My 40-year-old son, crying like a child. Mom, I think I made a terrible mistake marrying Caroline. When did you realize? These past few days, when we had no money, when she had to face reality, she showed her true colors. She's selfish, cruel, materialistic. And yet, you chose to believe her instead of defending me. I know, and I regret it every day. Do you regret it, or are you just scared because the easy money ran out? Ben looked me straight in the eye. I regret it, because I lost the most important woman in my life for a woman who doesn't even respect me. For the first time in days, I felt like my son had come back to me. Son, I said, taking his hands, you have never lost me, but you do need to make some difficult decisions. Like what? Like deciding if you want to stay in a marriage where there is no love or respect. Ben sighed deeply. Mom, I'm scared. Caroline could take Leo. She could ask for alimony. She could. Ben, stop being afraid and start being brave. Do you think I wasn't scared when your father died and I was left alone with you? Do you think I wasn't scared when I worked 3 jobs so you could go to college? No, Mom. You were always so strong. I wasn't born strong, son. I became strong because I had no choice, and neither do you. At that moment, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Helen Miller? Yes, this is she. This is Monica Garcia, the principal at Leo's school. I'm calling because this month's tuition payment was declined, and we need to get the account current. I looked at Ben, who had heard the entire conversation. How much is owed? It's $1,200 for this month, plus $800 in accumulated fees. I understand. Could you give me until Friday to make the payment? Of course, ma'am. But after that date, we will have to suspend Leo until the situation is resolved. I hung up and looked at my son. Ben, do you have it? Mom, you know I don't. Then Caroline has 3 days to get a job, or Leo is out of school. You can't do that. He's your grandson. Exactly. He's my grandson. And I am not going to keep paying for his education so his parents can live like royalty without working. If Leo gets kicked out of school, you enroll him in a public school, like I did, like you did for the first few years. Caroline will never accept that. Then Caroline can find a way to pay for it. Ben stood up, desperate. Mom, help me one more time. I promise that after. No, son. The promises are over. Only actions. What do you want me to do? I want you to take control of your life. I want you to tell Caroline that if she doesn't get a job in 3 days, the marriage is over. That's so drastic. You know what's drastic? Leaving your mother in the rain for 3 hours. That's drastic. Ben was quiet for a long time. Would you help me? If I divorce Caroline? I would help you raise Leo, help you get a smaller apartment, help you start over, but with conditions. What conditions? First condition, no luxuries. A simple, modest, responsible life. I accept. Second condition, you will value my effort and my sacrifice. You will never take me for granted again. I accept. Third condition, if you ever remarry, your new partner will respect the place I have in this family. I accept it all, Mom. Very well. Then go home and talk to Caroline. Tell her she has 72 hours to get a job, or the marriage is over. And if she says no, then you'll have your answer about what kind of woman she really is. Ben left that afternoon with a mix of determination and nervousness. I waited, knowing the next few hours would be decisive. I didn't have to wait long. At 11 o'clock at night, Caroline appeared at my door in a fury. Open this door, Helen. I opened it to find her disheveled, her eyes red with rage. How dare you put ideas in Ben's head? What are you talking about? He told me that if I don't get a job in 3 days, he's going to divorce me. Ah, he told you that. Yes, and it's your fault. No, Caroline, it's your fault for being a selfish freeloader. I am not a freeloader. Oh no? When was the last time you worked? When was the last time you contributed financially to the household? I take care of the house. I take care of Leo. Leo is in school 8 hours a day, And you have a housekeeper that I also help pay for. Caroline was left without an argument. Helen, please, don't destroy my marriage. I'm not destroying anything. Your attitude is destroying it. What do you want from me? I want you to go out tomorrow and look for a job, any job, and get one before Friday. That's impossible. It's not impossible. It's difficult. There's a difference. And if I get one, will you unfreeze the accounts? I will start to contribute gradually. But it will never be like it was before. What does that mean? It means you will have to live primarily on what you earn. I will only help with Leo's basics. Caroline started to cry with frustration. It's not fair. You know what's not fair? That a 69-year-old woman has to work to support 2 able-bodied adults. But we need you. You don't need me. You need my money. There's a big difference. Helen, please. Caroline, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to burn it into your brain. If you don't go out tomorrow and seriously look for a job, if you don't have a source of income by Friday, I will unfreeze the accounts for one reason only, to help Ben divorce you. Caroline's eyes widened in terror. You would do that? Without hesitation. Because my son deserves a woman who loves him, not one who uses him. I do love Ben. No, Caroline, you love the comfortable life that Ben can give you thanks to my money. That's not true. Then prove it. Get a job. Support your family. And show that you can love Ben without my money in the picture. Caroline left that night, defeated, but with a clear ultimatum. The next morning, very early, I saw her leave her house dressed simply, carrying a folder of papers. For the first time in 8 years, Caroline was going out to look for a job. It was a start. Friday arrived faster than expected. I was having a quiet breakfast when the doorbell rang at 7 in the morning. It was Ben, with Leo by the hand and a small suitcase. Mom, can we come in? Of course. What happened? Caroline got a job, he said with a tired smile. Waitress at a restaurant. She starts today. I felt a mix of surprise and pride. I hadn't expected her to actually do it. So why do you have a suitcase? Because last night, Caroline and I had a very honest conversation. I told her we needed a fresh start, that I wanted us to go to couples therapy, that things had to change radically. And what did she say? Ben sighed deeply. She said she would rather get a divorce than live like a middle-class woman, that she didn't marry me to work as a waitress and live counting pennies. Seriously? She said that? Her exact words were, if your mother isn't going to maintain my lifestyle, then there's no point in us staying together. I was speechless. Caroline had shown her true colors without any pretense. And what did you say to her? That she was right, that there was indeed no point in staying together if she was only with me for the money. Leo, who had been quiet, came over to me. Grandma Helen, does Mommy not love me anymore? I knelt down to his level. Sweetheart, your mommy loves you very much. But sometimes adults can't live together because they think very differently. I'm going to live with you and Daddy? His little eyes lit up. You would like that? Yes, it always smells nice here, and you give long hugs. I felt my heart melt. Son, I said to Ben, are you sure about your decision? Completely. These last few days, I realized I've been living a lie. Caroline never loved me. She only loved the comfort I could give her thanks to you. And you don't regret it? Not at all. I feel free. My phone rang. It was Caroline. Should you answer? Ben asked. Of course. Helen. Yes, Caroline. Did Ben tell you? Yes. He told me you got a job. Congratulations. Don't congratulate me. It's horrible. 8 hours on my feet, rude customers, miserable tips. Welcome to the real world. Helen, we can fix this. I can keep working if you go back to helping us financially like before. No, Caroline. Ben has made his decision. But he can't support Leo alone. He won't be alone. He'll be with me. With you? What do you mean? I mean Ben and Leo are moving into my apartment while he gets back on his feet. A scream came from the other end of the line. That's illegal. You can't take my son from me. I'm not taking anything. You decided that money was more important than your family. I'm going to sue. Go ahead. With what money are you going to pay for a lawyer? Caroline hung up, furious. Ben looked at me, worried. Do you think she can do anything legally? Son, A woman who abandons her family because she doesn't want to work is hardly going to win custody of a child. The next few months were some of the most beautiful of my life. Ben got a second, part-time job. Leo started at a public school and, against all odds, was happier than ever. "Grandma," he told me one afternoon while we were doing homework, "why was Mommy always angry before?" "Because your mommy didn't know how to be happy with simple things. I'm happy here with you." "Really?" "Yes. There's no shouting here, no fights, and there's always good food." Ben had changed completely. He was more affectionate, more grateful, more present. At night, after Leo was asleep, we would stay up talking like we did when he was little. "Mom," he told me one night, "forgive me for all these years. For taking you for granted, for not defending you, for letting Caroline treat you so badly. You are already forgiven, son." "Really?" "Really. Because in the end, all of this helped us find each other again." Caroline tried several times to get Ben to come back to her. She promised she had changed, that she now understood the value of work, that they could be happy with less money. But Ben didn't fall for her manipulations again. "My mother taught me something very important," he told her, the last time Caroline came begging. "She taught me that real love is not negotiated, it's not conditional, and it cannot be bought." A year later, I was on my balcony watching Leo play in the small garden when the phone rang. "Mrs. Miller?" "Yes. This is Leo's teacher. I just wanted to congratulate you. Your grandson is one of the most polite and happy children in the school." "Thank you. And I wanted to ask if you would be interested in giving a talk to other grandmothers about parenting. Many are going through situations similar to yours." "What kind of situations?" "Families who use them financially, children who don't value them, daughters-in-law who mistreat them. Your story has become very well known in the neighborhood." I laughed. "My story is well known?" "Yes. The women your age really admire you. They say you gave them the courage to set boundaries." I agreed to give the talks. Every Saturday, a group of grandmothers comes to my apartment and we share experiences. Many have made decisions similar to mine, and their lives have improved considerably. "Helen," Mrs. Carmen told me a few weeks ago, "you taught us that it's never too late to reclaim our dignity." Just a few days ago, Sharon brought me a letter that had arrived in her mailbox by mistake. It was from Caroline. "Helen," the letter said, "it has been 2 years, and I finally understand what you tried to teach me. Working has made me value the things I used to take for granted. I have a boyfriend now, a simple man who loves me for who I am, not for what I have. I am not asking for your forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it, but I want you to know that you did me a favor. You forced me to grow up." I didn't answer the letter. Some wounds heal better in silence. This morning, while I was making breakfast, Leo wrapped his arms around my waist. "Grandma, you know what?" "What, sweetheart?" "You're the strongest woman in the world." "Why do you say that?" "Because Daddy told me that when I was little, my mommy treated you very badly, but you didn't stay quiet. You said no, and you saved us all." I smiled as I scrambled the eggs. He was right. That night in the rain, I didn't just save myself. I saved my son from a toxic marriage. I saved my grandson from growing up in an environment of falsehood. And I saved my own dignity. At 69 years old, I learned the most important lesson of my life. Self-love is not selfishness, it's survival. And it is never, ever too late to say enough is enough. 5 years have passed since that rainy night that changed my life forever. Today, as I write these words on my small balcony, I can see Leo, now 13, playing soccer in the park with his friends from public school. He is a kind, hard-working, and respectful boy. My story has become legendary in the neighborhood. Women stop me on the street to tell me how my example inspired them to set boundaries in their own families. Helen, Mrs. Peterson from the building across the street told me yesterday my daughter had been asking me for money for her whims for 10 years while treating me like dirt. After hearing your story, I told her it was over. Now she works as a nurse and visits me for dinner every Sunday. Our relationship has never been better. These stories repeat every week. I have, without intending to, become a sort of community leader for older women. I have a WhatsApp group called the Phoenix Group, where we share experiences and support each other. Ben has blossomed as a man and a father. He got a promotion at his job and now manages his own department. He lives in a small but respectable apartment 3 blocks from my house and comes for dinner every Wednesday and Sunday. Every visit is genuine, filled with conversation and laughter. "Mom," he told me last Sunday, "I never imagined that the most painful decision of my life would end up being the most liberating one." "Are you referring to the divorce?" "I'm referring to choosing you over Caroline. For the first time in my adult life, I made the right decision." Caroline got married 2 years ago to an accountant she met at the restaurant where she worked. According to Sharon, who heard it through the neighborhood grapevine, they are expecting a baby. I'm glad to know she found her way, even if it was far from us. My financial life has completely changed. I am no longer the family bank, and my savings have grown impressively. I was able to remodel my apartment, travel for the first time in my life to see the beaches of Hawaii, and I even bought myself a nice used car. "Helen," Sharon tells me, "you look 10 years younger." It's true. I feel young, vital, powerful. At 74, I am living the best chapter of my life. Last month, a social worker from the city came to see me. They had heard about my story and wanted to offer me a position coordinating a program for seniors who are victims of familial financial abuse. "Mrs. Miller, your case has become an example to follow. We need women like you to guide others." I accepted immediately. Now I work 20 hours a week helping other grandmothers reclaim their dignity. It is the most satisfying job I've ever had. Last week, an 80-year-old woman came to consult with me. Her son had kicked her out of her own house to sell it, promising he would take care of her, only to have her sleeping in a storage shed and acting as an unpaid nanny to his 5 children. "Mrs. Miller," she asked, "do you think at my age I can start over?" "Mrs. Davis," I replied, "I started over at 69. You have all the time in the world." Last Sunday, Leo asked me a question that shook me. "Grandma, do you think when I grow up, I'll treat my wife well?" "Why do you ask that?" "Because I remember how Dad used to let Mom treat you badly, and I don't want to be like that." "Sweetheart, the very fact that you're worried about it means you're already different. I promise you, if I ever see you treat someone badly, I will call you on it." That conversation filled me with hope. Leo is growing up with solid values, seeing the example of a grandmother who respects herself and a father who learned to value the women in his life. This morning, as I had my coffee, I reflected on the journey. That night in the rain was my breaking point, but it was also my rebirth. I learned that it's never too late to say no, that true love includes respect, that being good doesn't mean being a fool, and that the family that mistreats you does not deserve your sacrifice. But above all, I learned that a woman can reinvent herself at any age. A journalist came to interview me last week for an article on elder abuse. "Mrs. Miller," she asked, "what would you say to a woman who is living what you lived through?" I would tell her that her dignity is worth more than any comfort, that it is better to be alone and at peace than accompanied and humiliated, and that it is never, ever too late to start over. "Do you regret anything?" "I only regret that it took me so long to fight back." The article was published last week, and my phone hasn't stopped ringing. Last night, while helping Leo with his math homework, he told me something that filled my heart. "Grandma, my teacher asked us to write about our favorite hero." "And who are you going to write about?" "About you." "Me? Why?" "Because you're the only person I know who turned sadness into strength." Today, 5 years after that night that changed my destiny, I can say with certainty that I was brave, that I chose my dignity over comfort, that I saved not only my life, but the lives of my son and my grandson. And every time I see an older woman walking with her head held high, setting boundaries, respecting herself, I feel that my story was worth it. Because sometimes, a single woman who says enough can change the world. After a full day of teaching at the public school, I came home exhausted. I saw a new lock on the pantry. "It's so you don't touch our things," my daughter-in-law said without looking at me. I smiled without saying anything. The next day, the padlock was gone, and in its place, I left a letter. One that made her hands tremble as she read it. Yes, that's right. Just as you're hearing it, a padlock. In my own house. On the pantry I had built myself 25 years ago, when my Arthur was still breathing, and this house smelled like fresh coffee and pastries in the morning. But let me tell you from the beginning, because this story doesn't start with a padlock. It starts long before, when I still believed that being a good mother meant giving everything without expecting anything in return. My name is Eleanor. I am 67 years old, and for 42 of them, I was an elementary school teacher at Lincoln Elementary in the Jefferson Park neighborhood. I taught over 800 children to read. I gave them kindness when their own homes didn't. And I never, ever imagined that my own son would make me feel like an intruder in the place where I raised 3 children and buried a husband. That Tuesday, I arrived tired. My legs ached after standing all afternoon supervising recess. I was 65 then, just about to retire. I came in through the back door, as always, and went straight to the pantry to get the vanilla wafers I kept for my afternoon tea. My one little treat after a long day. And there it was, a new, shiny, silver padlock hanging from the door of my pantry, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. I froze. My purse slipped from my shoulder. For a second, I thought I was in the wrong house, that I'd walked into the wrong door, but no. There was the cracked tile by the stove that Arthur never got around to fixing. There were the basil plants in the window. It was my kitchen. My house. Then I heard her voice. "Oh, you're home." Claire walked into the kitchen, drying her hands on a dish towel. She was wearing that pink blouse that, according to her, cost $250 at a boutique downtown. The same amount of money I spent on groceries for the entire week. "What is this?" I asked, pointing to the lock. My voice came out softer than I wanted. I still didn't understand what I was seeing. She didn't even look up. "Oh, that. Ryan and I bought some special things for us. You know, imported goods, organic olive oil, that sort of thing. And, well, we don't want them getting mixed up with the other stuff. It's just to avoid problems." To avoid problems? As if I were the problem? "But, Claire, this is my pantry, my house." She finally looked at me, and in those brown eyes that I once thought were sweet, I saw only coldness. "Oh, Eleanor, don't take it personally. It's just organization. You have your space, we have ours. It's the healthiest way to live together, don't you think? My space, in my own house. As if I were a tenant they were tolerating. I wanted to scream, to rip that lock off and throw it out the window. But something inside me, that part that was always a teacher, the part that learned to measure every word, made me hold my tongue. I smiled. "Of course, dear, whatever you say." And I went to my room. I didn't cry that night. I was too furious to cry. I sat on the bed I shared with Arthur for 38 years. And for the first time in 3 years, I allowed myself to see clearly what I had been ignoring. My house was no longer mine. It hadn't happened overnight. It was like mold growing in the walls. You don't see it until it's everywhere. If this story is stirring something inside you, subscribe to the channel. Because what comes next, not even I saw it coming. 3 years ago, when Arthur died of a heart attack while watering his geraniums, my world collapsed. I didn't just lose my husband. I lost the sound of his footsteps in the morning, the smell of his aftershave when he got ready. That way he'd hug me from behind while I was cooking. The house became a giant echo. Ryan, my youngest son, came to the funeral with Claire. They had been married for 2 years. He hugged me and said, "Mom, we're not going to leave you alone. We'll move in with you until you're feeling better." Temporary, he said, just until I got back on my feet. But temporary turned into a month, then 6, then a year. And suddenly 3 years had passed, and not only had they not left, they had taken complete possession. At first, it was subtle. Claire started to help by reorganizing the kitchen. "It's just more practical this way, Eleanor." My grandmother's Blue Ridge china ended up shoved in a top cabinet I couldn't even reach. My old, seasoned cast-iron skillets were replaced with Teflon pans, which she said were healthier. Then came the furniture. "That armchair is so old, Eleanor. We're going to donate it." And my brown armchair, where Arthur read the Sunday paper every week, disappeared. In its place, they put a modern gray sofa that was nice, yes, but it wasn't mine. The living room became their home office. My sewing room was filled with boxes of her things. The dining room, where we celebrated every birthday, every Christmas, was now decorated with abstract art I hadn't chosen. And I, like an idiot, let it happen. Because I thought it was love, that they were helping me modernize, that this was just life with young people. But the lock was different. The lock was a message. That night, lying in the dark, I remembered something I told a student years ago. Her name was Daisy, and her older sister treated her badly. She took her things, made her feel invisible in her own family. Daisy, I told her, never let anyone make you feel small in your own life, not even for love. And I had done exactly that. I looked at the ceiling. The shadows from the street lamp moved like ghosts. And then, for the first time in a long time, I felt something stronger than sadness. I felt rage. And that rage, I would soon discover, was exactly what I needed to wake up. Because what Claire didn't know is that teachers learn to read between the lines. And I had just read her message perfectly. What she also didn't know was that I knew how to write, too. Wait until you see what I did with that lock, and what I discovered later, on his laptop. The next day, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't had in years. Like when you take off dirty glasses and suddenly see all the details you'd been ignoring. I got up early, as always. I made my coffee in the old drip coffee maker they still allowed me to use, because the Italian pod machine was just for them. I sat in the small space left for me at the breakfast table, and I started to remember. It wasn't sudden. It was like water eroding stone, drop by drop, until you don't recognize your own home. I let my mind travel back 3 years, to the day of Arthur's funeral. It was unbearably hot for November. Street, James Church was packed. Fellow teachers, neighbors, his buddies from poker night, the ladies at the corner store where he bought his cigars on the sly because I nagged him about them. Ryan arrived with Claire. She wore a simple black dress, and her hair pulled back. She hugged me gently and said, "I'm here for whatever you need, Eleanor." Her voice sounded sincere, or maybe I just needed to believe it was. After the burial, when everyone had gone and the house was left in that awful silence only the newly widowed know, Ryan took my hands. "Mom, you can't stay alone. Not now. I'll be fine, son. Your father taught me to be strong." "I know, but we're going to stay with you for a while. Just until you get back on your feet. The house is huge. We have plenty of space." Claire nodded at his side, with that smile that seemed kind to me then. "It's temporary, Eleanor. A few months, tops. Besides, this way we can save for a down payment on our own house, and you won't be alone. It's perfect for everyone." Perfect for everyone. What a well-wrapped lie. The first few days were good. Claire cooked, cleaned, and accompanied me to parent-teacher conferences when I didn't have the energy to go alone. Ryan fixed things around the house that had been broken for years. The water heater, the lock on the garden gate, the leak in the bathroom, I felt accompanied. Less empty. But the third week, Claire started with her suggestions. "Oh, Eleanor, these curtains are so old. What if we buy new ones? I have a really good eye for decorating." They were the terracotta-colored curtains Arthur and I had picked out when we remodeled the living room, matching the tile floors. But I was so emotionally exhausted I just said, "Fine, dear, whatever you think." A week later, my terracotta curtains were in the trash. In their place, there were minimalist white ones that let in too much light and made the room feel cold. Then came the dining room. "These landscape paintings are so dated. Look, I bought these at a gallery. Modern art. It gives the room personality." The landscapes were from our honeymoon trip up the coast to Maine. Every time I saw them, I remembered him in that little inn, laughing because we had gotten lost looking for a plaza. But when I protested timidly, Claire had already packed them. "Don't worry, I put them in a box. Maybe you'll want to see them someday." Someday. As if my own history were optional in my own house. The changes kept coming like waves, each one small, each one well-intentioned. "My collection of china. It takes up too much space. Let's put it up top. My plants in the garden. They're too messy. I'm going to reorganize them. The bookcase in the living room with Arthur's novels. These books are ancient. Should we donate them?" And I, still stunned by grief, just nodded. Because I thought I was being difficult, old-fashioned, clinging to the past. But the real change came when they started modifying the routines. Sundays used to be sacred in this house. My 2 daughters, Sarah and Emily, would come with my grandchildren. We'd make a big pot roast or chili, whatever we felt like. The house would fill with laughter, with kids running around, with that beautiful chaos of a family gathered. 3 weeks after they moved in, Claire suggested, "What if we do these dinners every other Sunday? Ryan and I really need our Sundays to rest." Then it was, "What if we make it monthly?" And then they just stopped. One Sunday, Sarah showed up unannounced with a cake and flowers. Claire opened the door in her pajamas, looking annoyed. "Oh, Sarah, we didn't know you were coming. We don't have anything prepared." Ryan and I were just about to head out. My daughter looked for me. I was in the kitchen, embarrassed, not knowing what to say. "I thought we still did family dinners," Sarah said, her voice tight. "Well, we all live together now. We just need to coordinate better, don't you think?" Coordinate, as if seeing my own daughter required an appointment. Sarah left the cake on the table, gave me a cold kiss on the cheek, and left. She didn't come back for 2 months. My friends got the same treatment. My best friend, Carol, who I'd had coffee with every Thursday for 20 years, stopped coming. The last time she arrived, Claire was doing yoga in the living room with techno music blasting. "Oh, sorry, Carol. I didn't know you were coming. This is my workout time." Carol, uncomfortable among the yoga mats and the incense Claire had lit, drank her coffee quickly and left. "You should let me know when your friends are coming," Claire told me later, not looking up from her phone, "so I don't have to interrupt my schedule." Her schedule. In my living room. In my house. Little by little, my social life vanished, and with it vanished the witnesses to what was happening. But the worst was yet to come. The worst was when I started to notice that Claire wasn't just changing the house, she was changing my son. Ryan had always been affectionate. He used to call me every other day before they moved in. He'd ask how I was, tell me about his job at the hardware store, make bad jokes that made me smile. But now, living under the same roof, he barely spoke to me. He'd get home late from work and go straight to their room. If I tried to ask about his day, he'd answer in monosyllables. "Fine, tired, we'll talk later." But later never came. One night, I heard them arguing in their bedroom. The wall was thin. "Your mom asked if we can take her to the doctor on Tuesday," Ryan said. "Why?" "She's a grown woman. She can go by herself." "Claire, she's my mom." "Exactly. She's your mom, not mine. I have enough to do working and keeping this house in order. I'm not going to be her nurse, too." There was silence. I waited for Ryan to defend me. I waited for him to say something, anything, but he said nothing. And in that silence, I understood something terrible. My son was choosing her over me, not dramatically or cruelly, just with silence, with absence, with letting her speak without contradicting her. I got into bed trembling, not from cold, but from helpless rage. The next day, I went to the doctor alone, and just like that, I was alone at the grocery store, alone at parent-teacher conferences even though I was about to retire, alone in this full house that felt emptier every day. Claire started cooking only for herself and Ryan. She said it was because they were on a special diet. They left their dirty dishes for me to wash. They occupied the living room TV for their shows. They played music I didn't understand. They had visitors they didn't introduce me to. And I just got smaller, a little more invisible each day in my own life. Until the lock, and that lock was the last straw, because I realized something. They weren't sharing my house. They were taking it from me. You can't believe it, but what they didn't know is that I still had an ace up my sleeve, something not even Ryan knew about. My son looked at me like I was a piece of old furniture in the way, and that hurt more than 1,000 locks. Ryan was born on a July dawn, with thunder outside and my hand squeezing Arthur's until it turned purple. It was a difficult birth. 36 hours of labor. But when I first held him on my chest, with his little eyes barely open and that cry that tore my soul, I swore I would protect him from everything. I never imagined that one day I would need to protect myself from him. Or rather, from his silence. Because Ryan didn't hurt me with shouts or insults. He hurt me by disappearing, by becoming a ghost who lived in my house but no longer lived with me. It was Wednesday. I remember because on Wednesdays I got home from school early, at 2 in the afternoon, and I used to find him in the kitchen having lunch. We would talk about everything, about his job at the hardware store, how the customers were, about that boss who, according to him, didn't even know how to use a screwdriver. But that Wednesday, 3 days after the lock incident, I came home and the house was silent. Claire wasn't home. Ryan was. I saw him sitting in the living room, scowling at his phone. "Son," I said from the doorway, "have you eaten? I can make us some eggs and bacon." He barely looked up. "Not hungry, Mom, thanks," and went back to his screen. I stood there, my bag still on my shoulder, feeling like I had just spoken to a wall. "Are you okay?" "Yeah." "Something happened at work?" "No." "Ryan, look at me." He sighed. That long sigh you use when someone is bothering you. He put the phone down on the couch and finally looked at me, but his eyes were empty, as if he saw me but didn't recognize me. "What is it, Mom?" "That's what I'm asking you. We don't talk anymore. You don't tell me anything. You live here, but it's like you're not here." He ran his hand through his hair, that gesture he'd made since he was a kid when he was uncomfortable. "I'm just tired. Work is tough. Don't take it personally." "Don't take it personally." The same words Claire used about the lock. "What about Sunday? Sarah told me you invited her and her family for lunch, but you didn't tell me." His face changed. He tensed up. "It was a last-minute thing. I thought you had plans." "What plans would I have? I live here. This is my house." "Mom, don't start." "Start what? Wanting to talk to my own son?" He stood up from the couch. He wasn't looking me in the eye anymore. "Look, Claire and I are trying to build our life. We need space. We can't always be thinking about, you know." "About me? You can't be thinking about me?" "It's not that." "Then what is it?" Silence. That damned silence that had become his answer for everything. "I have to go," he said finally. "Claire is waiting for me." And he left. Just like that, leaving me with words stuck in my throat and my heart in pieces. That night I couldn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, remembering the boy Ryan used to be. The one who would climb into my bed when he had nightmares. The one who drew pictures for me in elementary school and proudly taped them to the fridge. The one who would hug me tight and say, "When I grow up, I'm going to build you a huge house, Mom. With a big yard and everything." Where did that boy go? The following days were worse. Ryan started avoiding me completely. He'd leave before I got up. He'd come home late when I was already in my room. And when we did cross paths in the kitchen or the hallway, he'd look down and hurry past, as if I were an inconvenient stranger. But what finally broke me was what I discovered a week later. It was Saturday morning. Claire had left early for the salon. That weekly routine that she claimed was essential and cost $200 every time. Ryan was in the shower, and I, tidying the living room as I always did, found a manila envelope forgotten between the sofa cushions. I didn't want to snoop. I really didn't. But the envelope had the bank's logo, and it was open. Inside was a bank statement. My son's. And there was also a piece of paper in his handwriting. A note he had written to me 2 years ago, when he asked to borrow money. My hands started to tremble as I read it. "Mom, I promise I'll pay you back the $80,000 as soon as we get the loan approved. It's for the down payment on our house. Claire and I already found a perfect place out in Highlands Ranch. We're so excited to start. I swear on Dad's memory, I'll pay you back. Love, Ryan." $80,000. The savings Arthur and I had put together for years for our retirement. The money I was saving for emergencies, so I wouldn't be a burden to anyone in my old age. I lent it to him because he was my son, because I trusted him, because he told me it was for his house. But according to the bank statement in my hands, dated just 1 month prior, there was no house. There was a charge for $70,000 to Premium Auto Group, a car. They had bought a luxury SUV with my money and the bank loan, and they never told me. I felt the floor move. I sat down on the sofa because my legs wouldn't hold me. I read the statement over and over, looking for some mistake, some explanation other than the obvious one. But there was no mistake. My son had lied to me. He had used me. He had taken my life savings and spent it on a whim to please his wife. I heard the shower turn off, Ryan's footsteps approaching. I quickly put the papers back in the envelope and left it where it was. When he came out, his hair wet and a towel around his neck, he looked at me, surprised. "Oh, you're here?" "Yes. Just tidying up." He nodded, uncomfortable. He went to the sofa, grabbed the envelope without a word, and went to his room. He didn't even pretend to explain. That afternoon, when Claire returned with her hair freshly styled and her nails painted bright red, I saw her differently. I watched her get into that brand new gray SUV parked outside, the one they supposedly bought with their savings. With my savings, and something inside me broke for good. It wasn't just the money. It was the betrayal. It was knowing that my own son saw me as a bank, as someone he could take from without giving back, as someone whose needs didn't matter. That night, while they ate dinner in the kitchen, talking and laughing as if nothing was wrong, I stayed in my room. I didn't cry. I was out of tears. Instead, I felt something cold and clear, a decision forming like ice in my chest. I opened my closet, moved the old shoeboxes, and I took out the blue tin box my mother left me before she died. Inside were things Ryan didn't know about. Things Claire could never imagine. Documents, deeds, and a will that was still in my favor, because it turns out my son had forgotten something very important. This house had an owner, and that owner was still alive, still sane. And now, she was very, very angry. What came next, neither of us saw coming. But when I did it, it changed everything forever. In the back of my closet, I kept something they didn't know existed. My real power. The blue tin box was barely a foot long. It had faded flowers painted on the lid and a small dent in the corner. A souvenir from when it was dropped during the move to this house, 25 years ago. To anyone else, it was just an old, worthless object. But to me, it was a war chest. I took it out that Saturday night, after discovering the truth about the money. I placed it on my bed carefully, like someone unearthing something sacred. My hands trembled as I opened the rusty lid. The smell of old paper hit me first. Then I saw what was inside. Yellowed envelopes, carefully folded documents, photographs, and a black notebook with frayed corners. My mother's notebook. There, in her slanted, precise handwriting, were all the lessons she gave me before she died. Eleanor, she told me on her last lucid day, her eyes already dimmed by the cancer, but her voice firm. Never, ever, let anyone think you're stupid just because you're kind. Kindness is not weakness, and a woman who knows when to stay silent is more dangerous than 100 screaming men. I smiled, remembering her. My mother had been a teacher too, and she taught me that information is power. I pulled out the first document, the deed to the house. Original, sealed, notarized. In my name, Eleanor Monica Reynolds, widow. Not a single letter mentioned Ryan or Claire or anyone else. This house was mine, completely. No debt, no mortgage, no conditions. I had inherited it from my parents when they passed, and Arthur and I had remodeled it with our own savings. Every brick, every window, every tile in the bathroom had been paid for with the sweat of 2 teachers who worked for 40 years without stopping. Ryan knew that, or at least he used to. But maybe Claire had made him forget, or maybe he had chosen to forget because it was convenient to think this house would be his someday. I pulled out the second document, my will. I had made it 5 years ago, when Arthur and I decided to get our affairs in order. Back then, it left the house divided equally among my 3 children, Ryan, Sarah, and Emily. But that will could be changed, and a dark part of me, one that had been dormant for too long, began to consider that possibility very seriously. I kept looking. Copies of the utility bills, water, gas, property taxes, all in my name. All paid by me for the last 3 years, despite the $200 a month Ryan and Claire contributed, which barely covered their groceries. $200. A joke. The property taxes alone were $800 every quarter. The electric, $200. The gas, $100. Maintenance, repairs, unexpected costs. I paid for all of it with my teacher's pension. My $2,500 a month pension, evaporating to maintain a house for 3 people where only I was contributing real money. But the most interesting thing was at the bottom of the box. A white business card with blue lettering. Patrick Nolan, attorney at law, family and estate law. Patrick had been my student in 3rd grade, over 30 years ago. A skinny, serious kid who always read during recess. Now he was one of the most respected lawyers in the state, and he owed me. I had convinced his mother not to pull him out of school when she wanted to put him to work. "Miss Reynolds," he'd said at Arthur's funeral, squeezing my hand tightly. "Anything you need, whatever it is, just call. You changed my life." I looked at the card, then at the documents. And then, for the first time in weeks, I felt something that wasn't sadness or rage. I felt control. The next morning, Sunday, I waited for Ryan and Claire to leave. They had plans to have brunch with her parents. Another one of those gatherings I was never invited to. As soon as I heard the car pull away, I picked up my phone and dialed Patrick's number. He answered on the third ring. "Miss Reynolds? Patrick, dear, I'm sorry to bother you on a Sunday." "You are never a bother. Are you okay? Did something happen?" The genuine concern in his voice almost made me cry. It had been so long since someone had truly worried about me. "I need your help. I need to review some documents, and maybe make some changes." There was a pause. "Changes to your will?" "Among other things." "May I ask what's going on?" And then, sitting there on my bed with the blue box open in front of me, I told him everything. The lock, the humiliations, the $80,000, the way my own home had become a prison where I was the intruder. Patrick listened without interrupting. When I finished, his silence was different. It wasn't discomfort. It was calculation, thought, planning. "Miss Reynolds, do you have proof of all this?" "I have receipts. I have the bank statement I found. I have text messages where Ryan promised to pay me back." "And the house is entirely in your name?" "Completely. No debt. Nothing." "Perfect." His voice sounded firmer. "Then here's what we're going to do." For the next hour, Patrick explained a plan. It wasn't revenge. It was protection. It was setting legal boundaries that Claire and Ryan couldn't break. First, update my will with a different notary. One they didn't know. Leave everything to my daughters, with a special clause. Ryan could only inherit if he paid me back the $80,000 before my death. If he didn't, his share would be divided between Sarah and Emily. Second, get a notarized inventory of all my assets inside the house. Furniture, appliances, jewelry, everything. To make it clear what was mine and what was theirs. Third, prepare a legal ultimatum. If they didn't start paying a fair rent calculated at $5,000 a month, which was cheap for a house this size, or leave within 3 months, I could start eviction proceedings. "But Patrick," I said, my voice breaking, "he's my son." "I know, Miss Reynolds. And that's why I'm giving him options that don't involve kicking him out on the street tomorrow. But you have to protect yourself. What they are doing to you, it's not love. It's abuse." That word hit me like cold water. Abuse. Was that what it was? Could you call it abuse when it came from your own child? "Think about it," Patrick continued. "But don't take too long. The longer you wait, the harder it will be to get your house and your peace back." We hung up. I sat on the bed, surrounded by papers, feeling like I had just crossed an invisible line. But the line had already been crossed. Just not by me. I put everything back in the blue box. I hid it in the back of the closet, behind the winter boxes that no one ever touched. When Ryan and Claire came home that afternoon, they found me in the kitchen, making chicken soup, as always. Like the harmless old woman they thought I was. "Smells good," Ryan said, surprised to see me cooking. "I thought we were on a diet," Claire added with a sharp tone. I smiled. That smile I had perfected over 40 years of dealing with difficult parents. "It's just for me. You two do your own thing." Claire blinked, confused by my neutral tone. Ryan looked at me with something that almost resembled guilt, but neither said anything, and I just kept stirring my soup, calm, while in my mind, the pieces of a chessboard they didn't even know existed were already moving. Because I had learned something important. The person who shouts the loudest doesn't always win. Sometimes, the winner is the one who knows how to wait in silence, with a teacher's patience and a surgeon's precision. And I had waited long enough. But before I could make my next move, something happened that almost ruined everything. Something that made me question if I really knew the people I was living with. That day, in front of the whole family, they treated me like I was nothing. But I just let them talk. Because every word was just more rope to hang themselves with. Ryan's birthday, 35 years old. Before, those dates were sacred in our family. Arthur would wake up early to hang colorful streamers. I would bake his favorite angel food cake with strawberries. Sarah and Emily would arrive with brightly wrapped presents and hugs that lasted forever. But this year was different. "I'm organizing something small," Claire told me 2 weeks before, while painting her nails in the living room. "Just us and my family. Something intimate." "What about the girls?" I asked, meaning my daughters. "Oh, Eleanor, you know how they are. They always end up arguing over silly things. Better to avoid the drama." They didn't argue over silly things. They argued because Claire treated them with the same contempt she treated me. But Ryan never defended them. "And the food?" I tried again. "Can I make the special lasagna Ryan loves, or—" "Don't worry. I'm catering everything. You just relax. Relax." As if I were a guest in my own house, at my own son's birthday. The day arrived. Saturday, April 23rd. That sticky mid-year heat. Early that morning, Claire started transforming the house. She took down the paintings I had discreetly rehung. She put out modern centerpieces with artificial flowers. She changed the tablecloths to minimalist gray ones that, according to her, matched the decor. I watched her from the kitchen doorway, invisible, as she commanded and organized in my house as if it were hers. "Ryan, move that chair." "No, not there. More to the corner." "Perfect." My son obeyed without a word, moving furniture from one side to the other, sweating in his white t-shirt. "Do you need help?" I offered. Claire didn't even turn around. "No, we're almost done." "Oh, actually, could you go to your room while we set up? We're using the living room, and we don't want anything in the way." Anything in the way. Or anyone. I went to my room like a scolded child. I closed the door and sat on the bed, feeling the heat rise in my neck, the humiliation, the contained rage. But I stayed quiet. I took out my cell phone from the nightstand. I put it on silent. I set it on my dresser, strategically propped against a book, with the camera aimed at the partially open door. I started recording. If my years as a teacher had taught me anything, it was this. When someone is hurting you, document. Words are forgotten. Witnesses change their stories. But a video doesn't lie. At 6 o'clock in the evening, the guests started to arrive. First, Claire's parents, Walter and Beatrice. Yes, that was her name. And believe me, it was perfect for how insufferable she was. Beatrice entered wearing a floral dress and expensive sunglasses, carrying a cake from a fancy bakery downtown. She looked around the living room with a critical eye, as if judging if it was all up to her standards. "Oh, honey, it looks wonderful. You can tell you have great taste." "Your great taste?" "In my house, with my furniture shoved into corners." Then Claire's sister, Megan, arrived with her husband and 2 spoiled kids, who immediately started running through the house, screaming like wild animals. One of them knocked over my African violet. No one said a word. They didn't even pick it up. I stood in the hallway, dressed in my Sunday blouse and pearl earrings, waiting for someone to greet me. No one did. Claire walked right past me, as if I were part of the wall. Walter glanced at me and nodded, but said nothing. Beatrice flat out ignored me. Ryan? Ryan was too busy opening bottles of wine and putting on music. I sat in the corner chair, the one they had shoved next to the bookcase, and I watched. The dining room table was filled with food I hadn't cooked. Sushi, fine cuts of meat, gourmet salads, bottles of wine that cost more than $50 each, artisanal bread, French desserts, all paid for with the money they supposedly didn't have, the same money that justified them not paying me fair rent. "A toast to my husband," Claire raised her glass, "to his 35 years and to this being the start of our best chapter together." Our best chapter. As if I hadn't been there for his first 35 years. As if I hadn't given birth to him, raised him, educated him, supported him when he was unemployed, consoled him when his girlfriends left him. Everyone toasted. Glasses clinked. Laughter filled the room. And no one, absolutely no one, toasted me. Then Beatrice, with 3 glasses of wine in her and that condescending tone of people who think they're superior, dropped the bomb. "Oh, Claire, it's so good you two are so patient. Not everyone can stand living with their mother-in-law, right?" She laughed that fake laugh that made my skin crawl. "They must be so grateful to you." Not all modern kids sacrifice like this, taking care of their parents instead of dumping them somewhere. Sacrifice. Taking care of. As if I were the burden. Claire smiled, lowering her gaze with false modesty. Oh, my mother-in-law, she does what she can. It's hard at her age, right? But we manage, with patience. Mother-in-law. That word, which had sounded affectionate in the first few months, was now just poison wrapped in honey. It's just, Megan chimed in, pouring more wine. I told my husband, when his mom gets old, no way is she moving in with us. Straight to a nursing home. It's healthier for everyone. Laughter erupted. Ryan smiled uncomfortably, but said nothing. Nothing. Walter added his 2 cents. Well, I think it's fine to help, up to a point. But there comes a time when the old folks have to understand their cycle is over. Let the young people live. The old folks. They talked about me as if I weren't there, like I was an object to be dealt with eventually. Beatrice looked directly at me for the first time all night. Right, Eleanor? You understand they need their space. They're young. They have dreams. They can't be burdened with. Well, you understand. I stayed quiet. I smiled. That smile I had perfected over weeks of enduring insults disguised as advice. And I let them keep talking, because my cell phone was still recording. Every word, every cruel laugh, every dismissive comment. Claire brought out the cake. They sang Happy Birthday. Ryan blew out the candles. He made a wish. They asked him what he wished for. And he, looking at Claire with loving eyes, said, I wish that we'll have our own house soon, so we can start our real life. Our real life. As if these 3 years had been a lie. As if I were a temporary obstacle. I stood up from my chair. My legs were shaking, but I kept my back straight. 40 years of standing in front of 30 kids every day had taught me how to have presence. I'm going to my room. Enjoy your party. No one stopped me. No one said, don't go. No one asked if I was okay. Claire just muttered, rest well. I closed my bedroom door. I stopped the recording. 3 hours and 40 minutes of documented humiliation. I sat on the bed with the phone in my hands. I hit play. I listened to it all again. And this time, I didn't feel sadness. I felt clarity, because they had just given me exactly what I needed. Irrefutable evidence that I wasn't imagining things, that it wasn't my fault, that this was abuse, disguised as living together. I saved the video to the cloud. I made 3 backup copies. I sent one to Patrick Nolan's email with the subject, urgent. Additional evidence. Then I lay down. And for the first time in months, I slept soundly. Because I wasn't alone in this war anymore. I had allies. I had proof. And above all, I had a plan. What they didn't know was that they had just dug their own graves. And I was about to hand them the shovel. The next day, I did something that Claire will never forget. Something as simple as a letter, but as devastating as an earthquake. When Claire read that letter, I saw the color drain from her face. Because the right words, said at the right time, are worth more than 1,000 screams. Sunday morning was quiet. Too quiet. That uncomfortable stillness after a storm, when the air still smells like electricity and destruction. Ryan and Claire didn't come out of their room until 11. I had already been awake for 2 hours. I'd had my coffee. I'd watered the few plants I had left. And I had done something I'd been planning all night. On the dining room table, among the remains of the party that no one had cleaned up, I saw the padlock. They had just left it there, next to the empty bottles and dirty plates. As if it were trash. As if it hadn't been the symbol of my humiliation just days before. I picked it up. It was light. Cheap. The kind of lock you buy at any hardware store for $5. Nothing special. But to me, it represented a line that had been crossed. I went to the kitchen drawer, where I kept my tools. I took out a pair of old pliers that Arthur used to use for home repairs. The lock gave way easily. Too easily. With a little force and the right angle, the shackle popped open without a problem. I smiled. That symbolic lock, so powerful in Claire's mind, was useless. It was pure theater. An illusion of control. Just like everything else she had built in this house. I left the broken padlock on the kitchen counter, where she would see it. But that wasn't enough. I needed to send a clearer message, a more permanent one. I went to my room. I took out a pen and paper, not the computer, not a text message, a handwritten letter. Because there's something about handwriting that makes words heavier, makes them dig deeper. I sat at my desk, the same one where I had graded papers for decades, and I wrote, not with rage, with surgical precision. Claire, I've decided to say nothing about the lock, because I understand you come from a family where distrust is normal. I don't blame you for that. Everyone carries their own baggage and ways of seeing the world, but I want you to know something very important. Something you may have forgotten, or perhaps were never told clearly. This house has an owner, and that owner is me. The documents are in my name. Original, notarized deeds, impossible to change without my physical presence, my valid ID, and my thumbprint. My lawyer, Mr. Patrick Nolan, has certified copies of everything. And believe me when I say, he is very good at what he does. I know about the power of attorney you wanted me to sign 6 months ago. That paper you accidentally left on the table with the important parts highlighted in yellow. I'm not stupid, Claire. I'm a teacher. I taught over 800 children to read. I can read between the lines better than you can imagine. I also know about the $80,000 my son borrowed from me for a down payment on a house. The house that never existed, the money that became the car you drive every day. And I know what you said about me last night. I recorded every word. This isn't a threat, it's information. Information you need to have to make better decisions from now on. This is your only warning. If you ever try to put another lock on me, literally or metaphorically, you will meet the Eleanor you don't want to meet. The one who doesn't smile. The one who doesn't stay silent. The one who has documents, lawyers, and, above all, the truth on her side. Think very carefully before your next move. With the politeness I have left, Eleanor Monica Reynolds, legal owner of this property. I folded the letter into 3 perfect sections. I put it in a manila envelope, and in clear handwriting, I wrote on the front, for Claire, personal and confidential. I went to the pantry. The door was still there, without a lock, open as it always should have been. I taped the envelope to the center, at eye level, with thick packing tape. Impossible to miss. Then I went to the kitchen. I made a chamomile tea and sat down to wait. I didn't have to wait long. At 11:30, I heard footsteps. Claire dragged herself into the kitchen, hair messy, looking hungover. She went straight for the coffee maker. Then she saw it, the broken lock on the counter. She stopped cold. She picked it up, examined it, frowned. Then she looked toward the pantry, and there was the envelope. Big. Manila. With her name on it. I saw her turn pale before she even opened it. She grabbed the envelope with trembling hands. She tore it open, ripping the paper. She pulled out the letter, and she began to read. I kept drinking my tea, seemingly calm, seemingly distracted by looking out the window at the garden. But I was watching her reflection in the glass. I saw her eyes widen with every line. I saw her mouth form a small O of shock. I saw her hands begin to tremble by the time she was halfway through. When she finished reading, she folded the letter slowly. She looked at me. I didn't look away from the garden. Eleanor. Her voice was small, scared. I didn't answer. Eleanor. This is a misunderstanding. I turned my head slowly. I looked her in the eyes, and I didn't smile. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't smile. Which part is a misunderstanding? The lock I saw with my own eyes? The money, for which I have your husband's bank statement as proof? Or the things you said about me last night, recorded on video with a date and timestamp? She was speechless. The letter was shaking in her hands. We were just. Save it. My voice was firm, cold. I don't want explanations. I want you to understand that this house is mine, that I decide who lives here and under what conditions. And if you ever disrespect me again, in any way, you're gone. No discussion, no second chances. But Ryan is my son, and he will always have my love. But this house is mine, and in my house, you will be respectful. Or you will find somewhere else to live. The silence that followed was thick, heavy, electric. Claire clutched the letter to her chest. For a moment, I thought she would cry. or scream, or make one of those dramatic scenes she loved so much. But she did none of those things. She just nodded, barely, almost imperceptibly, and she went to her room without another word. I heard the door close, then muffled voices, Ryan asking what was wrong, Claire crying, explaining, maybe exaggerating. I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt like I had reclaimed something. Not my whole house, not my whole life, but a small, vital piece of my dignity. I finished my tea. I washed my cup, and I went for a walk in the neighborhood park, where no one knew me, where no one judged me, where I could breathe without feeling like my air was being rationed. When I came back 2 hours later, the manila envelope was gone from the pantry. The broken lock was still on the counter, but now there was a note next to it, in Ryan's handwriting. "Mom, we need to talk." I picked up the note. I crumpled it in my fist. And I smiled. Because finally, after 3 years of silence, my son wanted to talk. And I had a lot to say. That conversation changed everything. But not in the way I expected. They thought I was scared. But I was just waiting for the perfect moment. Ryan's note sat on the counter for 2 days. 2 full days where none of the 3 of us spoke a word beyond what was strictly necessary. "Good morning. Good night. Do you need the bathroom?" Nothing more. The house became a minefield where every step had to be measured, where every closing door sounded like a gunshot, where the silence was so dense you could almost cut it with a knife. Claire avoided my gaze. When we crossed paths in the kitchen, she'd grab what she needed and leave quickly, like a frightened mouse. She no longer played her music at full volume. She no longer reorganized my things without permission. She no longer made cutting remarks disguised as jokes. For the first time in 3 years, there was fear in her eyes when she looked at me. And I'm not going to lie. A dark part of me enjoyed that fear, but I knew this was temporary. That the initial shock would turn into resentment. That the resentment would become a strategy. That Claire was not the type to give up easily. So, I didn't give up either. I started documenting everything. Everything. I bought a new composition book from the corner store. Green, spiral bound. On the first page, I wrote, "Household Expense Ledger, April 2025. And I started to note every dollar that came out of my pocket. Electric, $212. Water, $84. Gas, $120. Property tax, $800. Groceries, $600. Internet, $79. Phone, $30. Total I was paying over $1,800 a month. Ryan and Claire's contribution, $200. The numbers didn't lie. I was subsidizing their life to the tune of over $1,600 a month. And that wasn't even counting the space, the furniture, the appliances, the use of the car they sometimes took without asking. But numbers weren't enough. I needed more. I started recording conversations. Not all the time, just when something important was happening. My cell phone, always in my apron pocket, in audio recording mode, discreet. Like that Thursday afternoon, when I heard Claire talking on the phone on the patio. She thought I had gone out. She didn't know I'd come back for my sweater. "No, Mom. I'm not exaggerating. She's insufferable. Now she's playing the victim, like she's the queen of." She paused. Someone said something on the other end. "Well, yes, legally she's the owner. But after everything we've done for her, right? We've been caring for her for 3 years. Putting up with her old lady habits. Caring. Putting up with. Old lady." I saved the recording with the date and time. I also started making copies of everything. Receipts, bank statements, messages. I put them in a yellow folder that I hid at my friend Carol's house. "Are you okay, Eleanor?" she asked me as we had coffee in her kitchen, worried about the dark circles under my eyes. "You seem different." "I'm preparing, Carol," I said simply, "for something big." I didn't tell her everything. Not yet. But I left her the folder with clear instructions. "If anything happens to me, you give this to Patrick Nolan. He'll know what to do." Carol squeezed my hand, scared. "Don't say things like that. Nothing's going to happen to you. I know. But it's always better to be prepared." Meanwhile, at home, I continued my performance. I started faking it, faking mild dementia, strategic forgetfulness, calculated confusion. "Oh, have I eaten dinner already?" I'd ask at the dinner table, even though I'd eaten perfectly 2 hours before. "What day is it today?" I'd murmur, looking at the calendar with a frown. Where did I leave my glasses? I'd search all over the living room when they were hanging from my neck. I saw Claire and Ryan exchange looks. Looks that said, asterisk, see? It's starting. She's starting to lose it. Asterisk. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted them to think. Because while they thought I was confused and weak, I was moving pieces on a chessboard they couldn't even see. I called Patrick 3 times that week. "I want to change my will," I told him in the first call. "Are you sure, Miss Reynolds?" "Completely." In the second call, I asked him to research if it was legal to record conversations in my own home. He confirmed that yes, anything recorded in my own private space was admissible as evidence. In the third call, I told him my plan. "It's risky," Patrick warned me. "But if you're determined, I support you. Just promise me you won't do anything without consulting me first." I promise, I lied, because I already had the next step planned. On Friday night, Ryan finally knocked on my door. "Mom? Can we talk?" "Come in, son." He walked in slowly, hands in his pockets. He sat on the edge of my bed, in the same spot he used to sit as a boy when he had nightmares. "About the letter." Claire showed me. He looked at the floor. "I didn't know you felt that way." That sentence almost made me laugh. Or cry. I couldn't tell if it was honest or just willful blindness. "Ryan, look at me." He looked up. He had Arthur's eyes. The same brown eyes with gold flecks that I fell in love with 40 years ago. "Did you really not know? Or did you not want to know?" He was silent. And in that silence, I found my answer. "The $80,000, he started. "I don't want to talk about that right now. But Mom, I'll pay you back. I swear. It's just that." "Ryan," my voice was firm. "I didn't come into this world to be paid back. I came to be respected. And in my own house, I don't feel respected. Do you understand the difference?" He nodded slowly. His eyes were glassy. "I'm sorry. I know. But I'm sorry isn't enough. I need to see changes. Real changes. What do you want me to do?" And there it was. The question I had been waiting for. "I want to live in peace in my house. I want your wife to treat me with basic respect. And I want you to start contributing fairly to the expenses. Or find your own place." He shot up. "Are you kicking us out?" "No. I'm giving you options. $5,000 a month in rent. It's cheap for this house. Or you can save up and find your own space, like you always said you were going to do." "But, Mom, we don't have that kind of money right now." "You have money for a luxury car, for expensive clothes, for salons and restaurants." My voice didn't waver. "You have money. You just don't want to spend it on me." He stood in the middle of the room, torn between 2 loyalties, and once again, he chose silence. "Think about it," I said softly. "You have 1 month." He left my room without another word. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had been too harsh, if I had crossed a line I couldn't come back from. But when dawn broke and I saw the sun coming through my window, lighting up the photo of Arthur on my nightstand, I knew I had done the right thing. Because love without respect isn't love. It's habit. And I had been a habit for far too long. It was time to make a decision. What happened next surprised even me, because it turned out I wasn't the only one with secrets in this house. When I opened that chest in front of them, their eyes filled with greed. They didn't know it was a trap. The 1-month deadline I gave Ryan passed like sand through my fingers. 30 days where the tension in the house was so thick you could almost chew it. Claire continued to avoid me, but I noticed something different in her gaze when she thought I wasn't looking. She was calculating, planning, waiting. So was I. It was a Sunday afternoon, one of those hot May afternoons where the air doesn't move and everything seems to stand still. I was in my room, reorganizing my summer closet. I took out old boxes, dresses I no longer wore, shoes saved from Arthur's time. And then, I accidentally left my bedroom door ajar. Just as Claire was walking down the hall, I heard her footsteps stop. Then, that held breath of someone who is seeing something they shouldn't be, but can't look away. In my hands, I held the velvet-lined chest. It was beautiful, I'll admit. About 16 inches long by 10 inches wide. The burgundy velvet was worn at the corners, but it still held that deep, almost blood-red color that gave it an air of mystery. It had gold engravings on the lid, intertwined initials that were barely visible. It had been my grandmother's, passed to my mother, and then to me. Inside, I kept the family jewels. There weren't many. We weren't rich. But each piece had history, weight, and value, both sentimental and economic. I opened the chest slowly, like someone unveiling a treasure, knowing full well that Claire was watching me from the hallway. I took out the pearl necklace. 36 natural pearls, irregular, with that creamy luster that only real pearls have. Arthur had given it to me for our 20th anniversary. He had saved for 2 years to buy it. Then, the gold earrings with small, genuine emeralds, heirlooms from my grandmother, who received them from her own mother. The brooch, Art Deco, silver, and onyx. A piece from the 1930s that my mother wore on special occasions and was worth, according to the last appraisal I had 10 years ago, about $2,000. And finally, the ring. The engagement ring Arthur gave me under the cherry blossoms in Washington Park. White gold with a small, bright diamond surrounded by tiny sapphires. I placed them on my bed, one by one, admiring them in the light from the window. And then, as if just noticing her presence, I turned toward the door. "Oh, Claire, I didn't see you there." She took a step forward, her eyes fixed on the jewels. She wasn't even pretending to be subtle anymore. "Is that real?" I smiled, that proud grandmother's smile showing off her treasures. "Yes, dear. They're family heirlooms. They've been with us for generations." I picked up the pearl necklace and let it run through my fingers. "This necklace is almost 50 years old. The pearls are natural, see? Not like the cultivated ones they have now, all uniform." Claire came closer, hypnotized. "Can I?" She held out her hand. I gave her the necklace. She took it with exaggerated care, like someone holding something priceless, which in truth it was. "It's beautiful," she murmured. Her eyes were shining in a way that reminded me of a child in front of a candy store window. "It must be worth a lot." "Well, I've never had it appraised to sell. But yes, I suppose so." The old appraisal said that, altogether, it was worth about $20,000. But that was 10 years ago. Who knows now? I saw her swallow hard. I saw how her fingers caressed the pearls with a reverence mixed with greed. "And this will someday be Ryan's." I finished the sentence for her. "Well, yours. When I'm gone, of course. It's for the family." Something changed in her expression. A light switched on in her eyes. A dangerous light that I knew very well, because I'd seen it in parents when they discovered a teacher had something they wanted. "Where do you keep something so valuable?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Right here, in my closet. I've always kept it here." I faked a worried look. "Although, lately I've been thinking, maybe I should put it in a safe deposit box, just in case." "Yes, that would be safer," she said quickly. "I can help you take it to the bank, if you want." I bet she could. "Oh dear, that's so kind. Yes, maybe one of these days we'll do that together." I gently took the necklace from her and put everything back in the chest. I locked it with the small key that hung from a chain. Claire followed my every move with her eyes. "Well, I'll let you rest," she said finally, but her feet didn't move. She kept staring at the chest as if memorizing it. When she finally left, I waited 5 minutes. Then I left my room and walked casually through the living room. Claire was on the sofa with her phone, but she wasn't watching videos or on social media. She was on Google. I read the searches in her screen's reflection from the hallway mirror. Natural pearl necklace price. Antique jewelry value. Family heirloom inheritance, who inherits. I smiled to myself and kept walking. For the next few days, Claire changed completely. Suddenly, she was kind, helpful. She asked if I needed help with the groceries. She offered to make me tea. She even tried to cook something special for me, though it was terrible. "Eleanor," she said one Wednesday afternoon, her voice sweet as poisoned honey, "have you thought more about the bank? I have time tomorrow." We could go together to open the safe deposit box. Oh, yes, but I don't know. I'm worried they'll ask for a lot of paperwork. Don't you worry. I'll help you with everything. I can even put my name on the box, too, so that if anything happens to you, we'll have access. You know, for Ryan. There it was. The real motive. What a good idea, I said, faking innocence. Let me think about it. But I didn't think. Instead, I called Patrick. She took the bait. I told him on the phone that night, locked in my bathroom with the water running so they wouldn't hear me. Are you sure about this, Miss Reynolds? It's a risk. I know, but I need her to show her true colors. And this is perfect. Do you want me to prepare the documents? Yes, but with the clause we discussed. The next day, I told Claire I had made the appointment at the bank for Friday. Her face lit up like a Christmas tree. Perfect. I'll go with you. Don't you worry about a thing. Friday came. We went to the bank. We opened a safe deposit box. We put the chest with the jewels inside. And we signed the papers. What Claire didn't know, because she didn't read the fine print that the bank officer explained quickly and she signed without paying attention, was that this box required 2 keys to be opened. I had one. Patrick Nolan had the other, with very specific legal instructions. It could only be opened if I died of natural causes, certified by doctors, and after a complete notary review of my final will. If anything happened to me suspiciously, the box was automatically frozen and its contents would become part of a legal investigation. Claire had access to the box. Technically, her name was on the papers, but she couldn't open it without me. And if I died, she couldn't open it either, without going through a legal process that would expose any irregularity. It was the perfect trap. We left the bank. Claire was happy, thinking she had won something, that she had secured her future. She didn't know she had just signed her own sentence, because I wasn't just protecting myself from her. I was protecting myself from any accident that might conveniently happen to me. And above all, I was creating evidence of her true character, evidence I would need very soon. What happened next was so fast, not even I was prepared for it. Because Claire made a mistake that changed everything. It was a Saturday morning when it all exploded, and I made sure there were witnesses. The calm after the bank visit lasted exactly 12 days. 12 days where Claire acted like the perfect daughter-in-law. She'd ask about my health. She'd offer to take me to the doctor. She even gave me a wool shawl so you don't get cold at night. I accepted it all with smiles and thank yous. But inside, I was preparing, because I knew this was the eye of the hurricane, that deceptive stillness before all hell breaks loose. And I was right. On Thursday night, while I was pretending to be asleep, I heard voices from Ryan and Claire's room. They were arguing, quietly, but loud enough for me to catch stray words. Can't go on like this. House should be ours. She's old. How much longer? The notary said we can. My heart sped up. I got up silently, barefoot, and put my cell phone on audio recording mode against the wall we shared. The app Patrick had recommended amplified the sound. What I heard froze my blood. My cousin works at a nursing home, Claire was saying. He says with a doctor's certificate saying she can't take care of herself anymore, we can commit her, and the house would be free. I don't know, Claire. She's my mom. So what? She's been in the way for years. Look at us, Ryan. We can't have kids because we live with your mother. We can't have our own life. This house should have been ours when your dad died. But legally, there are ways. My uncle is a lawyer. He says with a power of attorney and a diagnosis of senile dementia, we can take control of her assets. And you've seen how she is lately. She forgets things. She confuses the days. Even the doctor could certify that she's not well. I felt nauseous. Not because of what they were planning, but because of how well my performance had worked. Too well. I don't know if I can do that. Ryan's voice was weak, hesitant, but not scandalized. Not outraged. Like a son defending his mother should be. Oh, Ryan, don't be a coward. It's for our own good, for our future. Besides, she'll be taken care of in the home. It's better for everyone. The silence that followed was worse than any word, because it meant Ryan was considering it. My own son was considering locking me away to get my house. I saved the recording. I uploaded it to the cloud. to 3 different email addresses. And then I knew it was time. I couldn't wait any longer. Friday morning, I called my 2 daughters. Sarah, Emily. I need you to come to the house tomorrow, at 10 in the morning. It's urgent. Are you okay, Mom? Sarah asked, alarmed. I'm fine, but I need you here, and bring your husbands. It's important. Then, I called Patrick. It's time. Are you sure? Completely. Prepare everything we discussed. The full documentation? All of it. And I need you here tomorrow at 10, with the notary, if possible. Understood, Ms. Reynolds? Finally, I called my friend Carol. I need you here tomorrow, as a witness, and bring your phone, fully charged. What are you going to do, Eleanor? I'm going to get my life back. Saturday dawned clear. One of those days where the sky is so blue it hurts to look at. I got up early. I put on my best blouse, the blue one with white flowers that Arthur gave me for our last anniversary. I put on my pearl earrings. I did my hair carefully. If this was going to be a battle, I would enter it like a queen. At 9:30, they started to arrive. First, Sarah, with her husband, Robert. My eldest daughter, with that worried look she's had since she was a little girl. Mom, what's going on? Wait until everyone is here, honey. Then, Emily with her husband, Javier, and my 2 grandchildren. The kids ran to hug me. Grandma! We haven't seen you in so long. I know, my loves, I know. Carol arrived right on time with a box of pastries, which she left on the dining room table. And finally, Patrick Nolan, with his leather briefcase, and an older gentleman in a suit, whom he introduced as Mr. Mendez, the notary. Ryan and Claire were in the kitchen, having breakfast. When they saw so many people walk in, their faces changed. What is this? Claire asked, standing up. It's a family meeting, I said calmly. Sit down, everyone. I have something important to say. We arranged ourselves in the living room. I took the main armchair, the one that had been Arthur's. My daughters sat on either side. Patrick and the notary stood beside me. The others spread out on chairs brought from the dining room. Claire and Ryan remained standing, tense, like cornered animals. You can sit, I repeated. It wasn't a suggestion. They sat slowly on the gray sofa they had bought. I took a deep breath, and I began. I've gathered you all here because I need you to hear this. And I need witnesses to what I'm about to say. I took out my cell phone. I connected it to the Bluetooth speaker and played the recording from Thursday night. Claire's voice filled the living room. With a doctor's certificate, we can commit her. I saw the color drain from Ryan's face. I saw Claire's mouth open, but no sound came out. Sarah put her hand to her mouth. Emily started to cry. I let the recording play to the end, to the part where Ryan didn't say no, where he just stayed silent, complicit. When it finished, the silence in the room was absolute. Mom, Ryan tried to speak. I held up my hand. I'm not finished. This isn't all. I pulled out the yellow folder I had kept at Carol's house. I opened it on the coffee table. Here are all the receipts for this house for the last 3 years. Electric, water, gas, property taxes, maintenance. All paid by me, with my $2,500 a month pension. I put another document on top. Here is the bank statement that proves the $80,000 I lent for a down payment on a house was used to buy a luxury car. A car I have never used, that I have never even been offered a ride in. Another document. And here are the screenshots of the text messages between Claire and her sister, where she says, and I quote, "Just a few more months of putting up with the old woman, and this house is ours." Claire jumped to her feet. You spied on my phone? That's illegal. Patrick spoke for the first time, his voice professional and cold. Actually, ma'am, everything in this folder was obtained legally. The recordings were made on Miss.com, Reynolds's private property, where she has every right to record. The documents are copies of originals, and the messages were photographed on a laptop your husband left open in a common area of the house. Claire turned to Ryan. Say something. Don't just sit there. But Ryan said nothing. He was staring at the floor, his eyes glassy. I continued, because I still wasn't finished. I want you to know, I said, looking directly at Ryan, that this house will never be yours as long as I live. I have already modified my will. If anything happens to me, The house is to be divided only between Sarah and Emily. Ryan can only inherit his share if he first repays the $80,000 he owes me. If he does not repay it before my death, his share is nullified. Mr. Mendez, the notary, held up a document. Here is the updated will, signed and certified 3 days ago. It is completely legal and binding. Ryan finally looked up. He had tears in his eyes. Mom, I never wanted. Never wanted what, Ryan? Never wanted to stay quiet while your wife planned to lock me away? Never wanted to lie to me about the money? Never wanted to make me feel invisible in my own home? My voice cracked, but I held firm. I'm going to give you one option. One. You have 30 days to get out of this house. I can lend you $5,000 for a deposit on an apartment. It's more than you deserve, but I am your mother, and I won't leave you on the street. This is ridiculous, Claire yelled. You can't just kick us out. Patrick intervened again. He can, ma'am. This is his house. You have no lease. You pay no rent. Legally, you are guests who have overstayed their welcome. If you are not gone voluntarily in 30 days, we will proceed with a legal eviction. And with this evidence, believe me, we will win. Quickly, Claire opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, but no coherent sound came out. Ryan, my son, the boy who once promised to build me a huge house, broke down and cried, Mom, forgive me, please. And there, watching my son weep, I felt something inside me break too. But there was no turning back. What they failed to understand was simple. Love isn't begged for, it's earned, and it's lost. And they had lost it a long time ago. Now, I was just taking back what was always mine, my dignity. What happened in those 30 days was something I will never forget. For better and for worse, I gave them one last chance. Leave with dignity, or leave in shame. They chose. But it was already too late for pride. The 30 days that followed that meeting were the strangest of my life. The house became a divided space, as if an invisible line separated enemy territories. They were in their room. I was in mine. And in between, a silence so heavy it hurt to breathe. Claire never spoke another word to me. Not one. When we crossed paths in the kitchen, she'd grab what she needed and leave like a bat out of hell. Her eyes shot daggers of hate at me every time she saw me. She no longer faked kindness. There were no more masks. And in a twisted way, that gave me peace. Because at least we were finally being honest. But Ryan was different. My son became a ghost, wandering the house with slumped shoulders and a lost gaze. He lost weight. He stopped taking care of his appearance. Sometimes I'd find him sitting in the garden, staring at Arthur's plants, but not really seeing anything. One afternoon, 11 days after the meeting, he knocked on my door. Mom, can I come in? I was embroidering a tablecloth, an activity that always calmed my nerves. I put the needle down. Come in. He walked in slowly, as if he were afraid of breaking something. He just stood in the middle of the room, hands in his pockets. I want you to know, we found an apartment. In the Capitol Hill neighborhood, it has 2 bedrooms. It's nice. I'm glad. He nodded. But he didn't leave. There was something else he wanted to say, and he didn't know how. Mom, I never wanted things to get to this point. I put the embroidery in my lap. I looked him directly in the eyes. Those eyes of Arthur's that once looked at me with childish adoration. But they did, didn't they? Yes, his voice broke. And it's my fault, not Claire's. Mine. Because I failed you. I let it all happen. I stayed quiet when I should have defended you. I felt something in my chest loosen, just a little. Why, Ryan? Why did you do this to me? He sat down on the floor, right there. Just like when he was a kid and would come to confess he'd broken something or gotten a bad grade. Tears rolled down his cheeks unchecked. Because I was scared. Scared of losing her. Claire has always been intense, demanding, and I thought if I didn't do what she wanted, she'd leave me, like the others. He wiped his face on his sleeve. I know it sounds pathetic. I know it's no excuse. But it's the truth. And me? You weren't afraid of losing me? I thought you'd always be there. That mothers always forgive. that I could do anything, and you'd still love me. The brutal honesty of that confession hit me like a stone. Because he was right, I had allowed it. I had allowed him to believe my love was unconditional to the point of self-destruction, that he could hurt me without consequence. A mother's love is big, Ryan, but it's not infinite. It has limits. And you crossed all of mine, he sobbed, a deep, racking sob. Like a child who finally understands that actions have real consequences. Will you? Will you ever be able to forgive me? That question hung in the air between us. The truth was, I didn't know the answer. Not yet. I don't know, son, but I know this. Forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. And even if I do forgive you one day, things will never go back to the way they were, because I've changed. And you'll have to change, too, if you want to get back any part of what you lost. He just sat there, on my bedroom floor, crying like I hadn't seen him cry since he was 8 years old and fell off his bike. And I let him cry. Because those tears were necessary. They were part of his education. The next few days were filled with boxes and moving tape. Ryan and Claire packed their things with mechanical movements. I stayed in my room most of the time, letting the process happen without my presence. Sarah and Emily came to help me put the house back in order afterward. We got rid of the gray furniture. We brought my old, story-filled furniture out of storage. We put the terracotta curtains back up. We rehung the paintings from Maine. "Are you okay, Mom?" Emily asked me, as we hung the family photos Claire had taken down. "I'm sad," I admitted. "But I'm also at peace. For the first time in years, I am at peace." On the 29th day, one day before the deadline, a moving truck arrived. Ryan and 2 movers cleared everything out. Clothes, furniture, boxes, that gray sofa I hated so much. Claire supervised it all with a face of controlled fury. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't even look at me. She got into the SUV, the one bought with my money, and left without a backward glance. Ryan was the last one out. He was carrying a box of photographs. He stopped at the door. "Thanks for the $5,000. I'll pay you back, along with the other $80,000. I don't know when, but I will. Don't do it for me, Ryan. Do it for yourself. So you can learn that debts are paid, that promises are kept." He nodded, and then, in a small voice, he asked, "Can I come visit you? Someday, when things are calmer." I thought about it. I really did. Call me in 6 months. If by then you've started to keep your word, if you've shown that you're changing, we can try to rebuild something. But it will be different. With boundaries, with respect. I understand. He moved as if to hug me. I tensed up. I wasn't ready, he noticed. He stopped. And instead, he just gave me a kiss on the forehead. "I love you, Mom. And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." And he left. I closed the door behind him. I leaned against the wood. And finally, after months of holding it in, of being strong, of being strategic, I let myself cry. I didn't cry for Ryan, or for Claire, or even for the lost money. I cried for the broken illusion of what could have been and never was. For the son I raised to be a good man, who somehow got lost along the way. For the years I would never get back. But I also cried with relief, because my house was finally mine again. The following months were for healing. I started inviting my friends over again on Thursdays. Carol, Linda, Susan. We'd have coffee and pastries at my table, without having to ask permission, without feeling like we were in the way. Sarah and Emily started coming over on Sundays with the grandkids. The house filled with the laughter of children again, with the smell of pot roast, with those long talks that only happen in families that truly love each other. I adopted a cat. A stray orange cat that showed up in my garden one afternoon. I named him Artie, because he had those same golden eyes as my husband and that same calm way of observing the world. And little by little, I started to remember who I was before I became the invisible woman in my own life. 6 months later, Ryan called. "Mom, I paid back the $5,000. I deposited it today, and I have $3,000 saved for the other amount. I know it's a long way to go, but I'm working on it. How are you, son?" There was a pause. "I'm better. Claire and I are in therapy. She's still angry with you. But at least she's working on understanding why she did what she did. And so am I. I'm learning to set boundaries, to not be so afraid. I'm glad. Can I see you? For coffee? Just for half an hour? I thought about it, and this time, the answer was easier. Yes. But just you. And at a coffee shop, not here. I'm not ready for you to be in this house yet. I understand. I love you, Mom. I love you too, son. But loving doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering and choosing every day to rebuild what was broken. A year after that family meeting that changed everything, I'm sitting in my garden. The afternoon sun is warm on my face. Artie the cat is sleeping on my lap. My plants are blooming because I finally have time to care for them. Not everything is perfect. I still have hard days. Days where I miss the idea of what could have been. Days where I wonder if I was too harsh. But then I remember the lock, the humiliations, the nights I felt like a stranger in my own bed, and I know I did the right thing. Because I got back something more valuable than a house. I got back my dignity, my peace, my right to live without fear, without guilt, without having to justify my existence. Ryan visits once a month. We have coffee. We talk. We've had 4 visits now, and each one is a little less awkward than the last. I don't know if we'll ever have the relationship we used to. Probably not. But we're building something new. Something based on mutual respect, on clear boundaries, on a love that is no longer blind, but aware. And that's enough, because I learned something I should have learned a long time ago. True wealth isn't what you own. It's what you refuse to let them take from you. Your peace, your dignity, your right to live without apologizing for existing. And that, no one will ever take from me again. I share this story not for you to judge me, or to applaud me. I share it because I know there are so many women out there living the same thing, feeling invisible in their own homes, putting up with it because they think it's what they're supposed to do. And I want you to know this. You don't have to put up with it. You don't have to be a martyr. You can set boundaries. You can say no. You can take your life back. It is never too late to defend yourself. It is never too late to choose yourself. I did it at 67 years old. And if I could do it, you can too. Don't let anyone make you feel small. Not your son, not your daughter-in-law, not anyone. You are enough. You have always been enough, and you deserve respect, especially in your own house, especially in your own life. Are you looking for more? Did this story strike a chord in your heart? Did it make you think? Did it give you the strength to do what you need to do? Leave me a comment. Tell me where you're listening from. Tell me if you're fighting your own battle. You are not alone. None of us are. Give this video a like if this story reminded you of your own worth. Subscribe to keep hearing stories of women who decided to stop being invisible. Because our voices matter. Our stories matter. And as long as there is someone willing to tell them, there is hope for all the rest. With love and respect, Eleanor. The end.